and welcome to the Actual Tech Media MegaCast. My name is Jess, and I am excited to be here with you all today. But before we jump into our content, I have some basic information to cover with you. Let's kick off our day here today by taking a quick tour of your audience console. And we're going to start with the questions window. Now, if you haven't already said hi, there is a whole audience of cool humans out there, so reach out and give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. Also, keep in mind that if you have any tech issues today, a browser refresh is going to fix just about anything. But if those tech gremlins are clinging on, no problem. Just throw a comment in the question section and our crew will be there to help. We also want this to be an informative webinar for you. So throughout today's MegaCast, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all of your burning questions. Not only will we have team members responding to you over live chat, we will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of our presentations. And if we do not get to your question during the webinar, don't worry, because the awesome experts that we have here with us today will be following up with you after we wrap. All right, next up on our tour, there are going to be lots of cool aha moments in the MegaCast today, and if you want to share those with your community, we've made it nice and easy for you. You can use the Twitter button right there in your audience console, and the hashtag for today's MegaCast will automatically get added to your post. And our last stop on this guided tour, be sure to check out the Handouts tab for some resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info pack collection of solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So many great resources, so be sure to go explore. And if that wasn't enough fun, we also have some exciting prizes we will be giving away throughout the MegaCast today. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about those later on, but a few quick reminders for you all. You do need to be in attendance here live at the webinar in order to qualify to win a prize, and we will follow up with all winners after we wrap the MegaCast today. Now, all winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. Now, hey, if you're not sure what those are, no problem. You can find the full T's and C's in that Handouts tab. Again, just click into the Handouts section, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find the full T's and C's waiting for you there. Now, the absolute most important thing to remember here today is that we love getting all your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much that we have a special additional prize for all you inquisitive folks out there. In today's MegaCast, we will be giving away a prize for the best question asked in each of our sessions. Now, the expert speakers and teams will review all the questions asked after the webinar, which means that even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. If you are a lucky winner here today and would like to donate the value of your prize, we have several wonderful organizations that we partner with. So let us know when we follow up about winning, and we will get that rolling for you. Again, we are so happy to have you all here with us live at the MegaCast today, and we want to keep that good feeling going. So let's connect on social. Reach out and connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter and LinkedIn. We have lots of great content, and we always want to hear from you. Now, if you're looking for more awesome content right away after we wrap, you want to jump right in, make sure that you subscribe to the Actual Tech Media channel on YouTube. Another fun way to win a prize and to grow this awesome community is to refer an industry friend or coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you're going to find a link to do that right there in that Handouts tab, and you will also be automatically redirected after we wrap today. Now, both you and your coworker, your friend, could win a prize, and we actually hold those drawings every month. So be sure you refer somebody awesome before you head out today. It could quite literally be a win-win situation. Next, we have a cool opportunity for the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link in your Handouts tab and fill out the application. Then the Actual Tech crew will match you with some vendors that we think you should be chatting with based on your needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you can choose to join in, like surveys or test running new solutions, extended demos, and so on. You'll get some chances to win extra prizes, you'll chat with great people, and you will learn about the hottest new trends in tech. So be sure to apply, or hey, send that link to a decision maker in your team. Now, I want to take a quick minute here to remind you about one of my favorite resources, and that is ransomware.org. You can find everything you need to know about ransomware, how to prepare, how to prevent and recover. The site is jam-packed with information, helpful tips, checklists, strategic approaches, case studies, everything you need in one place. So wherever you are in your ransomware preparedness journey, there is something for you at ransomware.org. So go check it out and start exploring. All right, I have one more exciting resource I have to tell you about today, and that is the Gorilla Guide Book Club. It's going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books are going to work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and they are completely free, super easy. You can download these awesome resources at gorilla.guide, and there's a link for you in the handouts tab as well. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of important things already, and I don't know about you all, but I am excited to dive in. So let's get rolling.
Hello and welcome, folks. It is shaping up to be a monolithic megacast today as we explore disaster recovery and backup in the cloud. In an era where data is a critical asset, having a solid disaster recovery and backup strategy is essential. So on this megacast, we will explore how cloud-based solutions can offer a reliable, scalable approach to safeguarding your organization's data. Whether you are coming in with the tall order of migrating your on-prem data to cloud-based backups and implementing recovery for your organization, or you're already cloud native and looking to keep ahead of the curve, there will be something for you today on the MegaCast. Top experts are here to discuss how to maintain business continuity while minimizing downtime for everything from natural disasters to ransomware attacks. You're going to hear about all the key aspects such as automated backups, RTOs, RPOs, and the use of cloud storage to securely store and quickly restore data in the event of a disaster. Fortunately, we have speakers from TierPoint, Zerto, an HPE company, Rubrik, Veeam, Backblaze, and Cohesity joining us today, as well as a fantastic keynote speaker, Melissa Palmer, who will ensure you leave today's session with practical and actionable insights into optimizing cloud resources for data protection and rapid recovery. I imagine you are all ready and pumped up to begin, and we have a boatload of information to share today. So we will cover off just a few last little bits of info and then get our speakers on out here with us. So a very quick, big welcome from me. My name is Mackenzie Puddesy. I am a moderator here at Actual Tech Media, and I have got my friends and fellow moderators in the wings here, Jess Steinbach, Scott Becker, and Keith Ward with us on live chat here today. And in more exciting news, we have got some awesome prizes today. And do I mean prizes? Yes. Today on the MegaCast, you could win one of 3 iPhone 16 Pros, and you could also be a lucky winner of one of $300. Wow, I messed that up. One of the $300 Amazon gift cards we're going to be giving away every 30 minutes during today's event. Quick reminder, you must be present and live with us today at the MegaCast to win. And as mentioned in that housekeeping video this morning with Jess, you can find the full T's and C's linked in the handouts tab if you have any questions about that. Now, just when you thought that was impressive, I am yet again going to up the ante. Each session that we're hosting today, as in each speaking team, also will have a $50 best question gift card. So if you ask an insightful question today and it is deemed the best, the most thought-provoking, the most conversational, well, you might just be able to win a prize. So again, keep up your curiosity and keep those questions coming in throughout the session today. And if you haven't yet found the handouts and questions tab, well, in the handouts, you're going to find a bunch of downloadable and linked URLs and PDFs, which you're going to want. These handouts are great documents, great ways to follow up from each presenting team, but also in the questions tab, this is where you're going to be able to ask your questions. And I've seen a ton of you already say hi, hello, good morning. If you haven't yet said a big hi and hello, well, why don't you quickly do that now? Just get the energy pumped up and let everyone know you're here. So whether that be a hi or hello, an hola, a bonjour. I saw some Canadians. I saw some people with Spanish speakers. So whatever your greeting of choice is, say hello and great to see you here today. Alrighty, and with that, I think it is time to get the show on the road. So let me get our keynote speaker, Melissa Palmer, out here with us. Melissa is a technology analyst, and she's also a VMware certified design expert. Always a great presenter. I'm so excited to hear what you've got here for us today, prepared and ready to launch us into this topic. So Melissa, I'm going to hand things over to you. Take it away.
Thanks so much, Actual Tech Media team. Today, we're going to talk about a critical topic that's quite honestly often overlooked: disaster recovery and backup in the cloud. Now, this topic has become increasingly complicated for many people in recent years just because cloud strategy has evolved so quickly. We have some organizations that take a cloud native approach, others are focusing on more of a hybrid cloud journey or even a multi-cloud journey. And this kind of brings complexity into environments, but it also brings radical simplicity. Now, before we really talk about how the cloud can help us with these things, let's set the stage and first talk a little bit about disaster recovery in general. Now, no matter what your cloud implementation looks like, the principles remain the same. You're going to hear a lot about recovery objectives today. Specifically, they break down into RPO and RTO. Now, RPO is the recovery point objective, or the point in time you want to recover to. So basically, how much data can I lose? And RTO is the recovery time objective, or how long does it take me to recover? Now, these two values, or these recovery objectives, are pretty much going to drive your disaster recovery and backup solution. Now, you're probably asking me, but what if I don't have RPOs and RTOs? And you're right, we're going to have to determine them first. So how do we do this? This is a process we call business impact analysis, or BIA. This is where everybody's going to get in a room, right? Us, the techies, we're going to get in a room. We're going to get in a room with the business owners and the application owners, and we need to discuss and agree on these objectives up front. Now, let me give you a tiny little spoiler alert. Every application owner is going to say that they have the most important application in the company, right? So there's a couple things we can look at to help determine the criticality of these applications, right? So you hear the term business critical, right? It runs the business a lot of times and it makes money. So if downtime is measured in dollars, this is probably a critical application that's going to require high level protection. The other thing, and this is unique to some industries, is protecting human life, right? If I'm a hospital, I might have my, patient data system that might not necessarily make me money, but I need it to protect my patients and ensure nothing happens to them. So that's going to be a critical system too. So those are some values and some things you can kind of keep in mind during this analysis phase. And that's why these conversations are just so very important. Now, as a rule of thumb, until the cloud at least, it's always been that the lower the RPO and RTO, the more expensive it is to provide a data protection solution. Now, the cloud has fundamentally changed this because now we can restore an application in mere moments to the cloud. And the best part is we don't need to have that second or third data center anywhere. We don't need to have equipment sitting anywhere. We don't require that huge upfront investment that we used to require for disaster recovery, right, in the earlier days. This becomes more important because we can actually protect more data with stricter RPOs and RTOs, like dev and test, right? That's something that would often get overlooked, but hey, somebody was running production and development and we didn't figure that out till we had an outage. So we're able to protect all of our data at this point at a fraction of the cost as we were in the days where we just needed dedicated equipment and data centers anyway, right? I remember bringing back applications on live, being ready to go live, and then it would be like, oh, we don't have any backup storage. So we can't actually bring our application online because now we have to wait for the storage to arrive and rack, stacked, validated, all that kind of stuff. This has been a huge change in disaster recovery strategy, allowing organizations to protect more. And, there are more layers that have changed in recent years. So let's go back to storage, specifically cloud storage. Today, it's so easy to have a copy of your data ready for waiting for you in the cloud or a different cloud. If you're multi-cloud, it's easy to make copies of our data and everybody should be doing it. And let's take it a step further. This copy of your data should be immutable. This simply means that your data can't be deleted or modified, so the hackers can't encrypt it or destroy it, which is really key in the age of ransomware, right? And cloud storage is actually what drove this adoption of immutability. And every cloud provider has their own unique spin and implementation on it, but it's something they all provide. This cloud copy of your data will also speed up recovery times in the event of a disaster and allow you the greatest recovery flexibility from everything from a natural disaster or cyber attack. If I have copies of my data in 3 different clouds, I could go anywhere I need to, no matter what's going on. That's just so different than it used to be. We know how easy it is to keep our data in the cloud and restore this data on this demand. But, a lot of people always struggle with those initial steps of, how do I actually protect this data? And this is where automated backups can come in, right? Automated backups ensure that our data is protected no matter what. Remember, the cloud is not magic. We still need to be protecting our data. which means if we are looking for a new solution, the cloud is actually a really good place to start looking, right? We know that cloud providers have all these various marketplaces where it's easy for us to browse for solutions, even for disaster recovery and backup. So this is included with that. We can go into the marketplace, we can find a solution, and guess what? We are up and running in a few clicks. There's no waiting for hardware or software or anything. We're ready to go. And this is really important if you don't have a base level of protection in things today. And let's just go along with that kind of base level of protection. I'm going to use Microsoft Azure as an example because that's my cloud of choice at the moment. I might have a subscription with several resource groups in it. I could just back up everything in my subscription, or I can just back up anything in my resource groups, right? Just back up everything with some kind of base level of protection, maybe an 8-hour RPO. And the RTO is just going to be so low in the cloud, it won't even matter. But okay, I'm going to back up everything every 8 hours just to get myself an immediate base level of protection before I go back and do my business impact analysis and get everything locked down to meet those business objectives. But it's so easy to put that base layer of protection in, and it just never's been that easy before. Having just a default policy that backs it all up is a game changer for so many people. Now, the best part of this all is that if you find yourself in a hybrid or multi-cloud kind of configuration, all these principles still hold true. And there's just so many solutions that can be used in the cloud and on-prem today. Any of the major cloud providers that you're going to hear from today, they're going to be able to protect any of your data no matter where it is. And this is going to kind of simplify your environment as a whole and let you use a single tool and not really worry about where you're protecting or recovering to. We have such a great event planned for you today. We're going to hear from a great deal of technology partners who have a solution for your disaster recovery and backup problems in the cloud. Because let's face it, this is one area that many organizations tend to struggle with. And so now's the time to build a rock solid data protection and disaster recovery plan once and for all. No matter what your pain points or struggles are today, or whatever unique requirements your organization have, all about today is a day you find the perfect solution with one of our technology partners. All right, let's get started. Back to you, Actual Tech Media team.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melissa. I absolutely love that. I love that you covered some terms, set the stage, put some context, and you're right. There's a boatload of great solutions here today. So I'm so excited to dive into that. Now, those of you who are out in the audience, you might have already seen it, but if not, there's a poll up here. And quickly, we're just asking, what is your time frame for adding new or updating your existing IT solutions at your company? So obviously, today we're talking about cloud. So this would be the overarching context of that. And essentially, we're asking, is this something very immediate? Or do you need to make some changes in the next 6 months? Is this something more like 6 to 12? 2025 is right around the corner. Is this something on next year's agenda? Or is it something even a little further out, maybe 2026 or beyond? Or perhaps you're still not sure. That's okay. You're here to gather some information, do reconnaissance, get a sense of what's out there. And then from there, you're going to be able to make some awesome innovations and decisions over at your organization. So looking good, looking good. Pretty mixed spread over here, pretty mixed spread, but a fair amount, not sure. And also, I respect that. I like that. All right, so I'm going to leave that up for maybe 30 more seconds, and then we're going to have our first presenting team on out here with us. And I am quite excited. We've got not only the amazing team from TierPoint, but we also have our friends coming in from Zerto. So a collab here, which I always love to see. We're going to have a great kind of back and forth conversation with Bob Brown, who is the lead solutions engineer. I'm going to throw up their titles so you can see them as well. Over at TierPoint. And then we have got Mike Nassis, who is from Zerto, a Hewlett Packard company, and he is the product marketing manager over at Zerto. So Bob, Mike, super excited to have you guys on here with us. If you're in the audience, remember, we do have them here for Q&A. So $50 best question gift card is up for grabs. Keep those questions coming in as Bob and Mike present and speak and discuss. And then I'll be joining to voice some of your questions that we have time for after the fact. So with that, Bob, I'm going to kick things over to you and let you start things off.
Morning, everybody. My name is Mike Nassis. I'm a product marketing manager with Zerto. And today I'm also joined by my colleague, Bob Brown, who's a lead solutions engineer at one of our managed service provider partners, TierPoint. And today we'll be speaking with you about disaster recovery and backup in the cloud and how you can achieve uninterrupted resilience with Zerto and TierPoint. So with that, let's jump right in. So if we take a look at the hybrid cloud landscape, right? First of all, we of course have the virtualization side, which is, our Zerto Classic, which is still very popular, replicating from site A to site B and from site B to site A, right? All with minimal impact to your environment, delivering those RPOs of seconds and RTOs of minutes that Zerto is really known for. But we also see people using public cloud providers for their disaster recovery backup requirements, right? Now, with Zerto, you can actually replicate out to not just the public cloud, but also to managed service providers like TierPoint that offer disaster recovery as a service in their own cloud environment as well. We can also replicate to more than one place at the same time. In fact, we can have up to 3 different copies of the same data going to 3 different places. So you can have a local copy going between the 2 data centers you still own. You can have a secondary copy going out to a public cloud, and then you can even have a third copy going out to a disaster recovery as a service site that a provider like TierPoint offers. So this really provides you the ultimate flexibility, and you can choose which applications go to which sites. And then, of course, we have disaster recovery within and between clouds. So just because you're running apps inside the cloud doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't going to be threats like ransomware attacks and outages. So we still have to make sure that you're prepared. And then backing up within and between clouds. So we store data inside cloud environments. How do we ensure that data that's in SaaS applications are protected as well? And we'll actually get into that in a little bit more detail, but we can achieve all of these great things with our simple scalable solution. So we can replicate to the cloud, public and even private with our managed service providers like TierPoint, and you can even replicate to multiple clouds simultaneously. So let's take a look at a little bit at what this looks like. So let's take a look at what Zerto protects, right? So we have, of course, as I mentioned earlier, Zerto Classic, right? Zerto for VMware and being able to replicate and protect on the virtualization side. We also offer protection of workloads for Azure as well as AWS. So, for example, you can use Microsoft Azure as a disaster recovery site or protect across PR regions to eliminate the capital costs associated with owning and operating your data center. So we also support Azure Blob storage, so as a repository for an extended journal copy, including immutability and data tiering between blob types. You can cost effectively use the cloud for your copies from the Zerto journal. So Zerto really enables fast and flexible workload migrations to and from Azure and between Azure regions, allowing you, of course, to accelerate your cloud adoption. And whether you're migrating or protecting virtual instances on premises to the cloud or within the cloud, Zerto actually is able to use that unlimited capacity of AWS while minimizing downtime and data loss, so you can really achieve your RPO and RTOs with ease. So Zerto can recover VMs on-premise to native EC2 instances, all while delivering the fastest RPOs and RTOs in the industry, dramatically limiting that downtime and data loss to ensure that 24/7 uninterrupted experience for your organization. And just wanted to point one thing out on the bottom of the slide. This is an awesome testament to what Zerto does. This is a real customer. We were paying close to $4,500 a month to replicate our CRM environment from Azure to Azure. And we were able to cut costs by 40 to 50% by using Zerto. So probably don't have to say too much more there, but that's just one example of the power of using Zerto to really deliver that disaster recovery in the cloud. We touched on this a bit earlier, but Zerto is a powerful solution for migrating workloads to, from, and between cloud platforms like Azure, AWS, and others, really ensuring that seamless migration with minimal data loss and downtime. Now, Zerto really makes moving to the cloud fast and easy. So, for example, a company transitioning from an on-premise data center to Azure can use Zerto to migrate hundreds or even thousands of virtual machines and leverage our automation to minimize that disruption period. Simultaneously, Zerto's real-time replication can ensure that company can migrate even during business hours without downtime, achieving a smooth go live, right? Migrations from the cloud is also another key thing that Zerto can accomplish. So organizations sometimes need to bring workloads back from the cloud. So a company utilizing AWS, for example, decides to repatriate certain workloads to their on-premise data center due to maybe cost concerns. So they can use Zerto to replicate that data back to their private cloud infrastructure in real time while maintaining operations without interruption or data loss. So those are just a couple examples of Zerto being able to help organizations confidently embrace cloud transformation while still maintaining that business continuity. I won't get into this one too much because I'm going to let Bob talk about this a little bit more, but we also do offer disaster recovery as a service with managed service providers like TierPoint, where we can offer you fully managed, partially managed, or even self-managed options that give you flexible licensing and billing models, and all while delivering that continuous data protection that Zerto is known for to drastically minimize your data loss and downtime. So again, I'll let Bob talk about this a little bit more in depth in just a few minutes. Now, when it comes to SaaS protection, as organizations increasingly rely on SaaS platforms, it's really, of course, essential to ensure that this data is recoverable in the face of accidental deletions or cyber attacks or compliance needs. In fact, one thing many organizations don't realize is that they're actually the ones responsible for their own SaaS data. It's a common misconception that data in the cloud is automatically backed up, but all SaaS providers, including Microsoft, Google, Salesforce, follow this shared responsibility model where you own your data and identities and they own the network, apps, and operating system. So having a service like Zerto Backup for SaaS actually allows for that comprehensive protection to safeguard emails, documents, calendars, all with this fast granular recovery that is really unmatched by anybody and just gives you that added protection, of course, that these SaaS vendors unfortunately do not provide natively. Now, as we wrap up, I just wanted to kind of level set here. I know we've kind of gone through a lot here. We only, unfortunately, don't have that much time to go through everything, and Zerto is really such a comprehensive solution. But really, if there's one takeaway here, it's our real-time replication paired with our automation and non-disruptive testing, regardless of cloud platform you're using, can really deliver this disaster recovery at scale that is really, in my opinion, unmatched in the industry. Our simplicity, our industry-leading RPOs and RTOs, and support for the most important cloud vendors is really, I believe, what separates us in the marketplace. And of course, I know I'm running out of time, so I'll keep this short. We offer really the gamut when it comes to data protection. So whether you're talking about tier 1 applications that are mission critical and you need those drastically reduced RPOs and RTOs, all the way to those tier 3 or 4 applications that are more suited to backup and long-term retention, we also offer solutions for those as well. So we really do run the gamut when it comes to data protection. And finally, I really encourage you to check out what the tools and resources that we have to offer you when it comes to exploring Zerto with hands-on labs, a product tour, or learning a little bit more about our multi-cloud and hybrid cloud approach. I really welcome you to check out all the resources at your disposal. And with that, I really appreciate your time today, and I'm going to hand it off to Bob.
Hey, thanks, Michael. I hope everyone's having a great day and appreciate you taking some time out to join us. My name is Bob Brown, and I'm a lead solutions engineer at TierPoint with a focus on disaster recovery and backup solutions. I wanted to take a minute or two before we got to our main conversation and just give a brief overview of TierPoint for anybody who isn't necessarily familiar with us. TierPoint operates over 40 data centers across the United States, and all are interconnected with our fiber offering speeds of up to 100 gigabits per second. Also, our data centers can provide connectivity to your hyperscale cloud providers. Think AWS, Azure, Google, Oracle, things like that, with a very low latency. You can see with the geographic diversity of our data centers, we can provide recovery locations that will be able to ensure that your data is going to be protected from a natural disaster, from a localized power failure, and will meet all of your auditing requirements. So here you can see an overview of the solutions that TierPoint can provide to our customers to help meet their IT and business requirements. We specialize in disaster recovery and data protection, and we're offering customized cloud solutions to our multi-tenant cloud, which is going to be available in 8 of our data centers across the United States. We can also provide hosted private cloud solutions with dedicated hardware in any of our data centers, and public cloud solutions within AWS and Azure. For the customers that are running IBM Power Systems and mainframes, that's your I series, your P series, and your Z series. TierPoint offers both production and disaster recovery services on these platforms. We offer a full suite of security services that can be integrated with any of our managed solutions, ensuring comprehensive protection for your data. And lastly, TierPoint provides a consulting and professional services across our full portfolio of solutions, including assistance with business impact analysis to support your disaster recovery planning. So it wasn't really that many years ago when we used to talk about disaster recovery. The conversation was really just about a couple of critical applications for the business that needed to stay up, and the rest of the applications could have an extended downtime. Businesses would typically use a storage replication solution and then provide a dedicated hardware at a secondary site that they would be maintaining. All of the other applications would be recovered through tape-based backup solutions and would typically be back up in 48 to 72 hours. In today's business environment, this doesn't work anymore. Virtually every application that is running in a business is providing a critical business function. Customers expect 24/7 access to the data and services. Years ago, when we calculated the cost of downtime, it was a simple calculation of how much money you lost per hour you were down. But in today's environment, we need to worry about the damage to your brand's reputation, which can be long-term and can wind up costing a lot more than the actual downtime did. And with the constant threat of cyber attacks for every business, companies need a disaster recovery and backup solution that can provide a quick and reliable means to ensure that your business stays up and operational. As I mentioned, years ago, there were not a lot of options for disaster recovery. It was mainly the secondary hot site with minimum downtime or a backup solution utilizing tapes that could take days to recover your data from. But companies are now tiering their applications based on the criticality and importance to their specific business. This allows the business to determine the correct solution for each individual application, which is going to allow them to have a more cost-effective overall disaster recovery plan. IDC did a survey not too long ago, and you can see here that the number one challenge for disaster recovery overall is IT personnel knowledge and skill. And the number one issue for DR in the cloud is going to be recovery time. Most companies don't have the luxury of a dedicated disaster recovery team that only focuses on DR events. Most companies have the DR team that is going to be made up of the staff that focuses on the day-to-day operations and keeping your production environment up and running. They don't deal with recovering environment on a regular basis, work with any of the technology, and quite honestly, most of them are hoping that they don't ever need to. Even though the cloud has simplified many of our day-to-day job functions, if your team isn't working with it on a regular basis, they're not going to be effective in performing the recovery into this environment and doing it quickly and efficiently. So this leads us into why companies are looking to disaster recovery and backup solution providers like TierPoint that can provide these services. The DR teams at TierPoint are going to be focused on DR solutions and recovering customers' environments. This is going to allow your IT staff to focus on getting your production environment back up and operating as quickly as possible if you ever did have an actual DR event. Using a DR provider like TierPoint ensures that you will always have the technical expertise watching over your DR environment 24/7 by 365. And by utilizing cloud-based services, and this is whether they're going to be a dedicated private cloud resource, a shared resource within a TierPoint data center, or if you're using a hyperscale cloud provider like Azure AWS, you can assure that you're going to be getting a cost-effective solution that's protecting your business with an SLA on getting your business back up and operating. So companies are looking to cloud-based solutions to provide rapid and reliable recovery now. Modern data resilience plans need to be able to protect you from a number of different issues, such as being able to detect potential ransomware that may have affected your data, protecting your data by ensuring you have a clean, immutable copy of that data at the secondary site, and ensuring that you have compute resources available to recover the data onto to ensure that you're meeting the company's recovery time objectives. Utilizing a cloud-based disaster recovery solution will allow you to ensure that you're meeting all of these elements. Earlier, Michael went through how Zerto works to provide an extremely low RTO and RPO for customers. I'm going to talk through how TierPoint utilizes Zerto to provide our customers with a solution that they can be sure will work with them in the event of a disaster. So minimizing downtime is going to be a common theme among all of our customers. They can't rely on the extended downtimes that it takes to recover from traditional backups. As you can see here, all of our solutions will be built on enterprise class hardware. The disaster recovery targets can be one of TierPoint's multi-tenant cloud pods, which is located in 8 data centers across the United States, host a private cloud solution, or we can utilize a public cloud target. We're going to work with you to determine which of those solutions would be the best fit for your particular environment. One of the key elements we had just discussed was the ability to detect potential ransomware in your data. Using real-time encryption detection in Zerto 10, TierPoint can alert you of any potential ransomware in the data that's being replicated. We also provide an industry-leading SLA-backed recovery time objective of 10 VMs being recovered every 15 minutes. This SLA ensures that your environment will be up and operational and allows you to have the RTOs that you're looking for. The service is a subscription-based service and will be inclusive of the Zerto licensing, compute requirements for the environment, target storage based upon the journal sizing, replication bandwidth, and different management options. We offer both the self-managed option for customers who want to manage the recoveries internally and a fully managed recovery option where TierPoint personnel will take care of the recovery for you and your IT teams can focus on getting the production environment back up and running. And lastly, testing is going to be a key component of any successful disaster recovery program. Testing at least annually allows you to be sure that you're protected against a potential disaster. This allows you to make sure that the solution is meeting your recovery time objectives. All of the DR solutions at TierPoint include annual testing hours to ensure that your environment is being properly protected. Our cloud-based recovery solution powered by Zerto includes 72 hours of annual testing, and additional testing can be added if required. Perhaps the most important piece of a successful DR program is going to be choosing the right vendor. TierPoint is a recognized leader in both disaster recovery and backup as a service solutions. We've been Zerto's managed partner of the year for the past 3 years and are one of Zerto's top 5 partners worldwide. So if you'd like to learn more about TierPoint's disaster recovery as a service solutions with Zerto and how we can help enhance your disaster recovery profile, you can visit us on the web at www.tierpoint.com. You'll be able to review our product services and you'll be able to chat with one of our solutions advisors online. You can also call us at 877-859-8437. When you reach out, one of our DR experts will discuss your company's business requirements for a disaster recovery solution. They'll discuss the different services that we can offer and share industry trends that are being seen across TierPoint. They'll also work with you to set up next steps to ensure that we can help you achieve your goals. And lastly, I'd just like to thank everyone again for taking some time out to join us today. I hope this was informative, and I hope everyone has a fantastic day. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And definitely excited to pose some of these questions that have come up in the Q&A to both of you, Bob, to Mike. But before I open up the questions, I just want to call out the poll that's there up on your screens right now. And this poll is asking what additional information you would like about the TierPoint Zerto solution. So if you're looking for some follow-up materials, if you want to take some action, there's the data sheet in there. You can pick that, white paper, case studies, pricing details, personal demos. You want to give it a try, feel free to fill that in. And with that, Bob and Mike, are you guys ready to field some of these questions?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, excellent. Well, okay, first one in the queue I've got is, does your Zerto for SaaS backup solution protect MS or Microsoft 365 and Azure AD/Entra ID?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And fortunately, it protects a lot of your apps and data within those SaaS applications that aren't actually natively protected by Microsoft. So that's actually, I think I mentioned it earlier, but that's actually a common, something that's commonly overlooked by those who use those SaaS platforms. So you typically would be a good idea to have another recovery or backup for those applications. Because again, Microsoft and Google aren't actually responsible for all of it. So, yep.
All right, excellent. Thank you for that. Couple kind of related questions. One here's asking, is there support for Azure Blob Storage?
Yes to that as well.
Okay, excellent. And then one more here. Does Zerto enable workloads to be brought back from the cloud?
Absolutely, yeah. If you're trying to repatriate, we can actually help make that process more seamless and efficient.
All right, excellent. Okay, this is coming from Spencer. Spencer's asking, we also do not have a DR team, and we are in fact using cloud-based backups in Azure. Does TierPoint help with our existing IaaS or IS?
Yeah, we can definitely help with the existing IaaS and look at what you're currently doing in your current environment, how you're getting everything out to Azure, and we can help with both the production side and creating that DR solution to make sure that everything's properly protected.
All right, excellent. I'm just going to kind of rapid fire because we have so many questions here and so little time, if that's okay with you two.
Yeah.
Next one is Michael's asking, is VMware the only VM hypervisor that Zerto works with?
Sorry, I was on mute. No, there are also others as well. And I was actually just looking at that question in the chat. So I'm going to post a link as well where you can kind of see everything that we support.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay. This one here. How do I determine what would be the best cloud for our recovery?
Yeah, so that's going to really be, based on the environment that we're looking at. So what we do is we look at your current environment, what your requirements are. Some customers, if they may already have some workloads in Azure, AWS, just want to go to a different region for the DR. Other customers have told us they want to be in a completely different cloud. So they want to be protected from a cloud failure. So we look at the regulatory compliance requirements, any specific, either requests or requirements from the customer to really help figure out what's going to be the best solution on that and figure out what's going to be the most cost effective solution as well.
Awesome. Excellent. And you guys are obviously, well equipped to kind of dive in a personal demo or consult to see, okay, this is what you're working with. This is where we can take you. This is probably what you'd want to do, I assume.
Yeah, that's actually the way we like to engage is, go in, do some discovery, understand what the current environment is, what the goal is, what the business requirements are, and then kind of put all those together to really help drive where that solution is going to be the best fit. And a lot of times it isn't going to necessarily be one cloud. We may do certain things in a private cloud, other things in a public cloud. It's really going to be just based upon the individual environment and those requirements.
Awesome. I like that approach. Okay, we might only have time for maybe one more quick question. This one's coming in from Elena. She's asking, can Zerto handle protection of large volumes of data?
Yeah, absolutely. If there's anything more specific, it's kind of a general question, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and from what I've seen in the past, from any sort of Zerto presentation, it seems like you guys are like massively quick and light on your feet and super scalable.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Yeah, thank you for helping plug us there. If you're looking for another job, Zerto's hiring.
Okay, I'll let you know. Awesome. I think we are pushing up against time. So I just want to give you guys a final mic drop moment, or if people are super enthused, they want to learn more. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with, or any kind of final call to action if someone does want to take some next steps with you guys?
I think in the presentation we went through, we both had some opportunities there for customers to reach out. But yeah, if anybody has any questions about Zerto or the TierPoint solutions and how we're utilizing Zerto to help protect you in the cloud, you can either contact Michael, myself, or any of the information we put in the slide decks there, and one of our representatives will get back to you. But we're hoping this was informative for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. And Mike, any final words there?
No, that's it. Feel free to, and again, I put it in the slide, the last slide, but we have lots of resources on Zerto, not only to learn more about what we do for, DR and backup in the cloud, but also, trying out Zerto for free, labs you can do as well. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, I'm going to let you two go. Thank you so much for your time, for your information, for your insights. And I look forward to the next time we get to pick your brains and learn a bit from you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.
A pleasure. Take care, you two. Alrighty, now I know there were more questions than we had time for, so if you did ask a question, do not fret. Bob, Mike, the teams from TierPoint and Zerto, they're going to be able to follow up with you either now on live chat or in the next day or so, and just make sure you're getting any information that you're seeking and any follow-ups that you're seeking. Thank you for all of those many responses there. In the poll. I'm going to be taking that down in just a sec. So if you haven't answered that and you are looking for some specific information, this is your easy button, your wish list. Make sure you do that. And also don't forget about the handouts tab. So there is a handout there. First one in there is the fact sheet from Zerto and TierPoint. So it's cloud-to-cloud recovery, disaster recovery as a service. And it'll be covering how you can achieve IT resilience with disaster recovery automation for diverse environments. So again, quick, great overview on that fact sheet. You're going to want to grab that before we wrap up the MegaCast today. Of course, you've got some time, but just a reminder to check out that handout section when you got a second. And with that, it is prize time. We're going to be giving away our first prize here and then move on to our next presenter. So again, you do need to be live and present here on the MegaCast to win. And of course, you got to be lucky. And our first lucky winner here of a $300 Amazon gift card is Ned Kelly from Virginia. Huge congrats to Ned. And we'll reach out to you after the MegaCast to let you know how you can claim that prize. And with that, let's keep things moving. Next up on the docket, we have got the team from Rubrik. Our friends at Rubrik are back in the house, and I'm excited to have Marc Crevier, who's the Senior Product Manager over at Rubrik. And with that, I'm going to basically just kick things over to you, Marc, and we'll see you on the other side. Take it away.
Hello, my name is Marc Crevier. I'm a Senior Product Manager here at Rubrik, and today we're going to talk about some cyber recovery strategies for today's challenges. So let's talk first about the anatomy of an attack. When an attacker gets into your system, they're going to start their dwell time, where they are starting to learn about your environment. They're trying to establish additional backdoors. They're trying to maintain persistence in your system so that they can get the most visibility possible and be set up to do the most damage possible when they do get to that actual target attack. And this can take a very long time. They can be in your system for quite a long time. We are, seeing evidence that this dwell time is being reduced, but it's still, potentially months that they're in there. And during that time, they're looking for your sensitive data, your critical data, your health information, credit card information, your backups. They're looking to see how you operate and where your critical data is and where it's vulnerable. And it's important to think about the time to recovery not just being when the last byte lands, but rather when operations return to normal. And in order to get back there, you need to have intelligence about, is the data that I restored valid? How do I know that I haven't reintroduced those backdoors? And we're going to talk all about these things. What do we need to protect from ransomware and to be able to recover? We need to make sure that there is immutability, that we are not vulnerable to cyber attacks changing data or deleting data. We need to make sure that there's anomaly detection so that we can identify those clean copies, which may not be available in legacy platforms. Legacy platforms may be part of an attack vector. So if we think about, those attackers going after backup systems, you need to think about, is your backup system in whole or in part of the same attack vector that they're going after, such as inside your virtualization platform. And it could take an extremely long time once you determine what your good data looks like to restore in a legacy platform. So knowing that you can automate your cyber recovery becomes extremely important in returning to operations. Knowing where your sensitive data lives. Your attackers are looking for it. It's best to know where it is ahead of time so that you can, in a preemptive way, make sure that it doesn't exist somewhere you didn't intend, that you don't have lab data that was copied from production or somebody who copied sensitive information to a file server, right? Being able to detect that proactively helps you before an attack, but during an attack, it becomes important to understand what's your risk profile and is that sensitive data part of the attack. And you need to make sure that you're not going to reinfect. It could be that the data you're recovering could have those backdoors inside of it, and if you accidentally restore the malware, then you've compromised what was previously your clean environment. So let's talk about how we prepare then. So before an incident, there's a technical and non-technical aspect to the preparation. On the non-technical side, the administrative side, it's important to know who's got what role, right? You've got a response plan, and that's not only how do we let our executives know or let our users know. There could be legal involvement that you need to consider. maybe that you need to consider alerting the authorities, or if you're a publicly traded or publicly visible company, you may need to notify your PR firm to get ahead of response on this. That's all part of the plan of who's responding, when they're responding, and making sure that strategy is laid out. Equally important, having documentation of how these systems are recovered. Nobody should be in this alone, right? It used to be, traditional disaster recovery was the job. There's a nerd for that, right? We've got somebody who's going to be able to take care of our DR. Now every stakeholder really needs to be involved. Whether that's in a smaller business, the business owner or application owners, right? The people who are ultimately responsible for the data in a given area need to know the cost of downtime and how much downtime they can expect once restoration efforts start to begin. And then with regard to crisis management, understanding that we're human and we can't work 24 hours a day for extended periods of time, and knowing how to do those handoffs and make sure that the people who are focusing on the recovery are able to do so, and the people that are focusing on those external communications are able to do so, and that there's a line of communication between them. From a technical standpoint, you need to know that your backups are recoverable, that you've got that immutability in place. You've got air gaps. With traditional type legacy backup software, you may need to be configuring network access on a timed basis, which it's great when you've got those ports closed, but it does mean that you need that access during backup operations. You need to know where you're recovering to. Your isolated recovery environment, or IRE, and it needs to be scaled and optimized for the workloads you're recovering. You may not be recovering your entire environment. You may be focusing on a set of critical apps. It may be that you do need to recover everything, but you need to know that ahead of time and make sure that your infrastructure is optimized for those recovery goals and what's going to be in there. Because if at the last minute you decide you're going to recover everything, but you've scaled it only for critical apps, you're going to have a really hard time getting everything running inside of there. So how do we do it? How does Rubrik help? Well, we logically air gap so that there's no attack vector. There's no network access to our storage. So the vector doesn't exist to be attacked. If with a legacy system, you may be writing over NFS or SMB type protocols over the network, and we've eliminated that from the attack vectors. Encryption at rest and in flight is kind of table stakes these days. Of course, we've got that, and we maintain encryption during backups and while it's being stored. And then immutability by design. This is inherently built into our architecture. This isn't something that needs to be configured or designed or turned on. Our file system was designed to be append only. And access control at every level. So not only making sure that your help desk has appropriate level for the help desk, and your database team can only access databases, your virtualization team can only access the virtualization aspects of the platform, but knowing that it's zero trust and that every action is authenticated is important as well. Using retention lock, you can make sure that when you set a retention, it can't be changed, right? So if you set a retention of 2 years, you can be confident with retention lock that with multiple approvals needed, no one person can turn back the clock on that retention to expire the backups before they've originally been specified. Additionally, we now call this quorum authentication as well, because you can have multiple approvers. And if all else fails, we've got intelligent data lock. It's a recycle bin, smart recycle bin that behind the scenes, so that when we see anomalous deletion behavior, we save it anyway. This is not a feature that users have access to. It's intentionally held back for Rubrik support so that in a worst case scenario, that data is still recoverable. All right, so now we've prepared for the attack. Let's talk about identifying the attack and knowing what's going on in your environment during an attack. Rubrik has anomaly detection. Every backup we look and see, is there anomalous behavior inside of there? Has an encryption event occurred? And we have two-phase analysis to make sure that we're reducing false positives on this. And what we can do is determine what that blast radius is. So again, think about those attackers going after your systems. If your attack vector is your virtualization system, it's entirely possible that if your monitoring system is part of that vector, it's not available. So some of the normal tools you might be used to having access to in this might not be there. Also becomes important, if I didn't mention this before, is taking those plans we made before, those communication plans, the documentation on how to recover these things, and storing that out of band, right? So if that's stored on a file server that got encrypted, it's not going to be of much use to you in a ransomware event. You need to have access to it outside of the possible attack vectors. So once we've identified, coming back to our anomaly detection, once we've identified the blast radius, whether that's a set of entire virtual machines or if it's inside of servers, we can tell you down to the file level what that radius is. We can correlate that with our sensitive data discovery. So now coming back to that thought of involving PR, if you can very early in the process know if your sensitive data correlates with that blast radius, because we already know where the sensitive data is. Now we know what the blast radius is. We can help you determine very early in the process what your risk exposure looks like with regard to overlap between sensitive data and compromised data. So while the attackers are in your system, in their dwelling, and they're learning about your system, they leave behind something called an indicator of compromise, or IOC. These are, patterns of maybe files, executables, usernames that are identifiable based on a certain type of attack. And those are described in what's called a Yara rule. That's yet another recursive acronym or ridiculous acronym, depending on who you ask. Which is a silly name for a serious and important thing, that using these Yara rules, Rubrik can conduct threat hunting inside of our platform based on that time series data. So this becomes very important for a couple of reasons. One, after detonation, and there's an attack, we can look and tell. Not only do we know the blast radius because of our anomaly detection, we can look for these indicators of compromise, which typically don't exist on all the servers that got encrypted, right? You think about the ways that we as administrators do our work. We have central points of administration that we use to then scale out. Most attacks happen in that same way, where not every machine that got encrypted necessarily has those indicators of compromise on it. So these Yara rules with Rubrik threat hunting can be applied on the time series data of backups to tell you where they exist in your system, when they first showed up. So now we can identify through anomaly detection the blast radius, and going back to the previous restore point, we know where the good data is. With threat hunting, now we know what not to restore. And wouldn't it be cool if we could take that one step further and automate it, before an attack? Good news is we can. With threat monitoring, we take a curated feed of those Yara rules and we apply it to every backup. So we scan using that curated feed includes the most prevalent or newest threats that have been identified. and looks through that time series data for them. Even cooler, we kind of have a time machine built in, because as a new Yara rule, a new maybe 0-day threat becomes cataloged and added to that threat feed, we're able to scan the last X number of days of backups to tell, were you impacted by this 0-day even a day or two before the definitions became available in those Yara rules. The other incredibly powerful thing this gives you is, in an attack during that dwell time, they're learning about your environment. They're also watching what's going on. So one of the risks of traditional security tools, if you start kicking off scans, right? You got endpoint detection. If you start kicking off scans, it's possible that the attackers are going to see that. And if they do, they're going to do as much damage as possible, as quickly as possible, to maintain their control over your environment and be able to extract that ransom they're looking for. By doing this in Rubrik, you're able to do it out of band, outside of your production environment. So you can do some of this forensic type activity without alerting your attackers that it's going on in your production environment. So we've done a good job of identifying where your sensitive data is and what the blast radius of an attack was, and is there correlation there, so you understand your risk exposure. We've identified where the malware is, so we make sure that we don't want to restore that. Well, how do we go about making sure we don't restore that? By containing it. When we detect one of those IOCs in threat hunting or threat monitoring, we mark it as malicious and make sure it gets quarantined so that it doesn't inadvertently get restored into that clean room or IRE environment. We do make it available. So in quarantine, you may need to be able to access it, to do forensics on it, or additional investigation. So we do have some manual ways we make available to you to get to it. But what we're really trying to do is to make sure that we don't restore malicious code back into your restore environment as part of this. All right. So how do we get back to production? We've done all this preparation. We're living through our worst days during this attack. How do we get you back? Well, this is with Rubrik. It's all part of the unified workflow, right? We have from our anomaly detection, you're able to see that correlation of sensitive data. You're able to launch threat hunts. And you're able to launch your recoveries from the same place using all of that intelligence that we've built into our security platform. So because you can identify the clean recovery points and you know what data to restore from the last known good, and more importantly, perhaps you know what not to restore, we can launch all of that right from Rubrik Security Cloud and deploy that into your clean room environment. If you need to use that environment for some forensics investigations, if you're using it as a staging area for proofing, we can use our live mount technology to get that in there. You can use this to simulate attacks. And you can set up, we talked a little bit about automating your recovery. You can plan ahead of time, and you should plan ahead of time for, an application-centric approach to recovery, where with Rubrik, we have cyber recovery plans that you can set up with on an application by application basis, so that this is the order and every server that we need to be restored as part of a given application. Additionally, and this is a quick win for practitioners on this, is you can schedule those recoveries for testing purposes. And what that gives you is a nice report showing all of the recent attempts and successes. And so now you know, 1, that you can recover, 2, that you can consistently recover, 3, how long it takes. And like I said, all of this goes into a report that you can hand to your boss or to your auditor to show that you're regularly testing this. And if you see some change in that behavior where a restore all of a sudden has something that fails or the timing on it changes, now you know that you've got something to look at. Every recovery method is going to be applicable to different situations, right? With Rubrik, if you just need to recover files, we can do that. If you need to live mount and use Rubrik as the storage to attach to your IRE compute environment, or just you want to send only back the data that's changed in a given server, this is something that each organization has to take a measured and tailored approach to figure out. But for whatever your needs, Rubrik has a recovery method that's going to match those needs at scale, very quickly, and in an automated way. So I mentioned earlier, nobody's alone on your worst day here, and that goes for not only the planning and execution, it goes with your partnership with Rubrik as well. We have the Rubrik ransomware response team, and it's worth noting this is our response team, not recovery team. This is operations that the customer does have to take, but our ransomware response team is there to make sure that we're there with you every step of the way to make sure that all of this planning, all of this preparation we've done, is executed without any holdups from and issues from Rubrik. And what this means is we've got our award-winning 24/7 customer support. We've got dedicated people on these teams who are aware of the urgency and the requirements for ownership of these cases and confidentiality. You can see on the slide here, we've done over 200 of these assisted recoveries, and it's not anything you've seen in the news or heard about from us, because there's that level of confidentiality. We think about that communication planning. It needs to come from your PR team or your legal team, right? And we understand the confidentiality needs of that. And it's not a separate SKU. It's not something you need to set up ahead of time. This is something that's available to everybody with a valid support contract. All right. So I hope everybody's feeling assured that we've got the tools to help stem some of the anxiety that comes with worrying about a ransomware attack. Proper planning prevents poor performance, to get alliterative. We've prepared now. We've developed that plan. We're storing it out of band, right? So we can access it in the case of an attack. We know where our sensitive data is because of Rubrik sensitive data discovery. We know in the event of an attack, what our posture looks like so that we can know what our risk exposure is. And we're using a policy-based approach to assign that data and protect it, and being able to recover again based on the automated recovery plans, all policy-based, all able to be executed on a regular basis. And we've sat down and we've evaluated what's the best recovery method, whether that's some combination of export or live mount or instant recovery. We know through this planning how we want to get that data recovered and get back to operations and validation so that we can get back to full operation and be done with the ransomware attack. So with that, I invite you to explore our guided labs at rubrik.com/explore, or participate in one of our simulated ransomware attacks at one of our Save the Data events. Both of these can be accessed on the Rubrik webpage. Encourage you to visit, sign up for one of those events. They're great. They're a lot of fun, and it'll stick with you as you think about your planning. Thank you very much. My name is Mark Crevier, Senior Product Manager at Rubrik. I hope this has been educational, and you have a great rest of the day.
All righty. Thank you so much, Mark. Absolute pleasure to hear your presentation today. We have kind of hit time, so we're not going to be able to keep Mark around for a Q&A. So again, thank you for all the live questions out there. You are definitely being considered for the best question gift card, but any of those questions will have to be followed up upon after the webinar today by Rubrik's team. So absolutely do not fret. You will get all the information you're looking for. And speaking of information that you would like, there's another poll up there. So if you're looking for any information in terms of what Rubrik solution can offer, case studies, pricing, data sheets, etc., that is all there for you to check out and to request. And we'll make sure that gets to you in a timely fashion after today's webinar. Another quick reminder to check out that handout section. Again, these are awesome resources, a great way to follow up on all of the presentations that we have today, and specifically to Rubrik. In there, we have got a data sheet. This is titled Replication and Disaster Recovery, Recover Instantly, and it talks about how to leverage hybrid cloud for disaster recovery using Rubrik. So definitely check that out. And again, I love these kind of quick, snappy, easy 1, 2, 3 page documents, which you can definitely float around with your team, pass around if you're trying to make some planning, make some decisions, and move forward in your organization with how to boost and evolve your disaster recovery and backup in the cloud. Alrighty, and with that, it is time to announce a couple more lucky winners. So again, it is prize time, and you do need to be live and present here on today's MegaCast to win. So I am looking forward to getting some cheers from the audience as we call out your names here. And again, if you're looking for the full T's and C's on how to win, how to qualify, that is also in that handouts tab we just talked about. All right. Without further ado, our second $300 Amazon gift card is going out to Martin Brija from New Jersey. And the first iPhone 16 Pro is going out to Hane Wahdan from Virginia. Huge congrats, Martin and Hane. And we're going to be reaching out, as always, after today's MegaCast about how you can claim those prizes. And again, we've got a couple more iPhones in this pipeline, so 2 more to give away, as well as a $300 Amazon gift card after each session, so every 30 minutes. So again, don't lose hope if you didn't win yet. We've got plenty more coming and plenty more wonderful information as well. All right, I'm going to pull down that poll, so you've got about 3 seconds there to throw in your answers if you're looking for any follow-up information from Rubrik, and then we're going to keep things moving along. Next up on the docket, we have got Veeam, and I'm super excited. We have Julia Forst Morgado. She's the global technologist, as well as Veeam's product strategy lead. So Julia, I'm super excited to hear from you. You're a great presenter. I've heard from you in the past and excited to have you back on today. And so I'm going to let you kind of dive in, introduce yourself a little bit further, and then talk about Veeam and how that fits in with today's topic at hand. Take it away, Julia.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Julia. I'm a global technologist at Veeam in the product strategy team. And today we're going to talk about disaster recovery and backup in the cloud, which is a perfect topic for me. I'm very passionate about cloud computing, cloud native. I'm a CNCF ambassador. I'm also an AWS container hero. And this topic is very important because companies are moving, they are migrating to the cloud. And oftentimes they forget, they don't know, they still need to have a disaster recovery plan, and they still have to back up their workloads even in the cloud. So let's get started. Let's first talk about disasters. They can be categorized in 2 main types, so natural disasters and man-made disasters. But both types of disasters, they disrupt operations of businesses in such a significant way that a considerable and coordinated effort is required to achieve recovery. On the left here in the screen, you might have seen lately the United States was hit by some hurricanes. Also in Spain, there were floods. All over the world, there are natural disasters going on, probably because of global warming, etc. But these are one kind of disasters. On the other hand, machines break and humans also make errors. So other disasters can happen like power failure, hardware failure, network outages, etc. A great example of that was the CrowdStrike incident that happened in July. You might see the screen on the photo on the right here. I was at the airport, so all the screens were blue like that. And it happened because CrowdStrike, they pushed a security software update to one of its products, and it caused that widespread IT outage. And besides those kind of disasters, there are also the famous cyber attacks that we know, and most importantly, ransomware attacks that happen every day and target all sorts of companies. You can see, recent news, I took the headlines. They are pervasive across the whole industry, and that's a big thing we need to be aware of, but that's another topic for another day. But with all of that, I like to say that you're gonna be, a disaster will happen to you, to your company, and it's not a question or if it's going to happen or when it's going to happen. I say it's how many times it's going to happen, because with all these type of disasters, they can happen anytime and many times. That's why it's important to talk about how can you recover from those disasters as fast as possible, so your business is still up and running after that. And here are just some of the impacts from the CrowdStrike, for example. So companies, they can lose millions of dollars. They can also lose their hard-earned reputation. They can lose customers' trust if they don't recover quickly. And here the impact on CrowdStrike and Microsoft. So they can face regulatory fines or lawsuits. And usually the impact is not only immediate, but it's long lasting. And that's why businesses, they need to have systems in place that allow for quick recovery, especially nowadays where organizations are generating a big amount of data and information in their systems. So you can see here the impact on CrowdStrike, share prices dropped, brand reputation, etc., etc. And that's where Veeam comes in. So with our cloud-based backups and disaster recovery solutions, we can help you get back up and running fast, and you don't have to have downtime, you won't lose your reputation, any of that. And so let's understand a little bit about disaster recovery in the cloud. First, let's talk about the pros. So you don't need any upfront investment. From CapEx, we go to OpEx, so capital expenditure. Now it's operational expenditure, which makes it very accessible for small and medium-sized businesses as well. So no hardware cost or capital expense. Also, your data can be backed up in the cloud automatically. And this automation helps you meet recovery point objectives seamlessly. It's easy to connect from anywhere, any device, which is very helpful, especially nowadays with remote working. It's scalable, so you have the flexibility to scale storage and compute resources as business grow or during disaster recovery events. Also, pay for what you use. So this model aligns well with unpredictable workloads, making it very cost efficient. So everything is on demand in the cloud. Now cons, you need internet connection. So while this is true, this can be mitigated with hybrid cloud solutions and edge technologies as well. So not always you need internet connection, also even using Veeam. And you're still responsible for your data. Yes, of course, there is a shared responsibility model between the cloud provider and the customer, which means the cloud provider is responsible for the security of the infrastructure, the services, keeping them up and running. But the customer's responsibility is on the data, the applications in the cloud. So you must ensure proper configurations, encryption, and compliance for all your data data application and also, management of identities in the cloud. Everything is up to you. And if you lose your data, the cloud won't be responsible for that. So very important to remember that. Now, let's go over this architectural diagram from Veeam. You can see that we have a comprehensive approach for disaster recovery. So in the left, you can see workloads are running on virtualized environments such as Hyper-V and VMware ESXi, but they could be anywhere as well. They could be in the cloud. It doesn't matter. Veeam can handle your workloads and can back up your workloads anywhere that they exist. And then they are backed up using Veeam backup and replication into secure repositories. And these repositories, they include options for immutable storage, which is great against ransomware attacks. Your data stays in a warm state, so no one can touch it, no one can modify it, nothing. And also these repositories, they include scale-out backup repositories, which seamlessly integrate on-premises and cloud storage. So this is great because it enables businesses to tier their backups to cost-effective, immutable cloud options like Amazon S3, Azure Blob, or long-term storage offerings like Amazon S3, Glacier, or Deep Archive, etc., which offers archival and compliance needs, helps with that. Then for added security, Veeam integrates with tools like Microsoft Sentinel or other SIEM solutions, as you can see on the bottom left, providing proactive threat detection and monitoring to safeguard your data. Now, in the event of a disaster, Veeam offers versatile recovery options, including seamless restore to public cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud. For streamlined recovery workflows, you can use Veeam Recovery Orchestrator, our famous VRO, which enhances the process of automated failover, ensuring that your critical workloads are quickly operational. So you can see you have several options, so direct restore, VRO, and from that, Veeam also provides a comprehensive coverage for modern workloads. So not only sending them to AWS, to the cloud, but also you can protect your SaaS applications with Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365. You can protect your Kubernetes environments with Kasten by Veeam, and even with Veeam Data Cloud, you can protect your environments. We'll go over that in a little bit. Now, here you can also see all the workloads that Veeam protects. So we protect across cloud, virtual, physical, applications, even unstructured data, and we provide you with data backup, data recovery, data freedom, data security, and data intelligence. So monitoring, seeing what's going on in your systems. And the Veeam Data Platform is like a single console. It provides a unified solution platform for you to secure your backup, to have fast recovery, and to have that data security and freedom, the monitoring, everything that you need in one single pane of glass. And yes, we have features like analytics, recovery, orchestration, everything that provides you a complete protection for your organization. But if that wasn't enough, Veeam also has now Veeam Data Cloud. It's something that was released recently this year, and it's a comprehensive, fully managed backup as a service, so BaaS solution designed to simplify data protection across various platforms. It's currently available for workloads like Microsoft 365 and Azure, along with Cloud Vault for secure and immutable data storage. But a lot of other workloads are on the roadmap. You can see AWS soon and the other ones at the bottom there. The backup and recovery capabilities that Vim is renowned for are now delivered for you as a service to streamline your operations so you don't have the complexity to manage everything and you can focus on what's more important for you and for your business. So here, businesses now have the choice between self-managed software or as a service, SaaS. And these solutions you choose depending on your unique needs, on your business needs. So on one side, on the left, the software subscription side, customers, they can deploy the Vim data platform in self-managed environments. So whether on premises, in the cloud or hybrid setups. And they will manage their own infrastructure, bringing their own storage and having full control over backup and recovery of their workloads. And then on the SaaS side, on the right, customers have two options. So first, there is the Vim Cloud Service Provider, so with a third party. These providers, they offer managed services for a wide range of workloads, reducing the burden of managing backup infrastructure. And also there is the first party, the one with Vim, which is the Vim Data Cloud. It's a Vim's own managed service where a user can simply log in to a web interface and manage their backups from there and their recoveries. Vim Data Cloud exemplifies customer freedom by becoming our twin offering to Vim Data Platform. It now provides more options for customers with a menu of backup services with products alongside our variety of self-managed products. And we anticipate in the roadmap supporting many more applications through Vim Data Cloud in the future. So whether you want to leverage a backup service, use a backup software, or offload your backups via managed service, Vim really has you covered. And here you can see that Vim really empowers businesses to recover from any disasters. It offers you support from a broad range of workloads, flexible recovery options, validated testing to meet SLAs, etc. And you don't have to believe me. You can see on the post Pavel wrote when he was impacted by the CrowdStrike incident, they faced significant challenges. And thanks to Vim's reliable backup and recovery solutions, they successfully restored over 500 Windows servers, proving the effectiveness of Vim in a real-world disaster recovery scenarios. So you can see, we help with SLAs, we minimize downtime, flexibility in recovery across multiple platforms, validated testing, so that's very important as well. All of that in a single platform. And before I finish, I just want to reiterate on the data freedom part. With Vim, you can recover your data when you need it and where you need it. We have a portable data format, so everything is in a .vbk file, and this allows customers to not only restore to another location, but also to a different technology. Like from AWS, you can send your data, restore it to Azure. Also with the Broadcom acquisition, you can send your data from VMware to Microsoft Hyper-V. So we give you that flexibility in order so you're not locked in with one vendor. That was hard. And with this, businesses can remain resilient and operational no matter the challenge that they're facing. So I love talking about this data freedom and portability. I think that was it. And I still have some minutes. Let's see if anyone has questions. Let me go through the chat. I can answer some questions. The recording or the slides will probably be available, and I'm always online. If you have questions, you can reach out to me on social media, LinkedIn, X, Blue Sky. I'm there as well, so feel free to reach out as well. Let's see the questions. So let me find, there are a few. Here, first one, this is a good one. How does Vim handle backup performance on Azure with large data sets? Ooh, okay. So Vim optimizes cloud backup performance by using features like backup compression, dedupe, and incremental backup, which reduces the amount of data transferred to cloud storage. Also, it integrates with Azure Blob, which is a high-speed cloud storage, and with that, even large data sets are backed up efficiently without impacting your performance. So you mentioned Azure, but that works with any cloud storage. We have dedupe, compression, so even on-prem storage or AWS S3, you know, I'm an AWS girl. Now let's see another question. What happens if a cloud region goes down? Can Veeam still recover my workloads? Okay, yes. So the answer is yes. Veeam allows you to replicate and store backups across multiple cloud regions, so you can ensure resiliency and high availability. And in the event of a region outage, we've seen that happens. Your workloads, they can be restored into another region, or even, like I said, to a different cloud provider, or you can bring them back to on-prem. That's the beauty of the data freedom and the portability that I was just talking about. So your data is always accessible and recovery, no matter where it is or where you want to send it to. So that was a good question. Good to exemplify the last slide that I just presented. Let's see what else. So I think I'm gonna take one more. Let me find one. So can Veeam ensure data sovereignty in cloud backups? Good. So yes, Veeam enables businesses to comply with data sovereignty requirements by allowing them to specify storage locations for their cloud backups. So you can specify options like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and that will ensure that your data remains within that geographic boundary, which meets local regulations. So we allow that you have granular options to where your data is stored, where you want to recover your data. So it won't be everywhere. You can be very granular and specific when doing that, when you're doing the configurations. I think I'm almost running out of time, so the questions were great. If you have more questions, again, feel free to reach out. And I hope this was useful. And yeah, have a good one. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you so much. Julia, you are awesome. I really enjoyed listening to you there. And I think you have one of the coolest titles, a native AWS container hero. I want to be a hero of anything. So thank you for that. I know you addressed a couple of questions. However, we had a bunch more. So again, if you're out in the audience, this is just the name of the game today. We are going to try to answer as many questions as possible. But again, anything you've asked, this will be passed on to the teams. So in this case, Veeam, they'll be reaching out and making sure that you get all the information you're looking for. And again, we've got this poll up to make sure you get anything you need in terms of a follow-up. So it's kind of your wish list. If you're looking for data sheets, white papers, pricing details, demos, we've got that there. And we are going to keep that up for a couple more minutes as we give away some prizes once again. Now, before that happens, I just want to give you a quick reminder again to hop over into that handouts tab. If you've slept on these resources so far, make sure you don't. URLs are a little bit easier to find and search for, but many of these PDFs will be a little bit harder to grab and find after the fact. So you definitely want to make sure you get them now. And again, this one is, I would call it an ebook, longer document called Mastering Hybrid Cloud, Backup Costs, Security, and Management. And this is covering some key insights and best practices to hybrid cloud backup success with Veeam. And with that, why don't we try out our luck and give away our next prize? Next up, we have a $300 Amazon gift card up for grabs. And this is going out to somebody live here and present in the audience with us today on the MegaCast. And without further ado, this is going out to Michael Cairns from New Mexico. Michael, huge congrats. And as always, we'll be reaching out after the webinar to let you know how you can claim that prize. And with that, let's keep the good times rolling. We have our friends here, Backblaze, in the house, and I'm very excited to have David Johnson, who is the product marketing manager at Backblaze, here to chat with us and give us an overview of what Backblaze is capable of, especially in terms of our topic today. So, David, I'm going to kick this over to you, and then I'll be joining David for Q&A as well. So, again, keep those questions coming in hot as a blaze, guns a-blazing. This is getting cheesy. I apologize. But anyway, David, take this away. And again, keep those questions coming in throughout the presentation, and I'll voice as many of those as I can in our Q&A session right after.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm David from Backblaze. I'm super excited to share with you some insights about how we can simplify backup and recovery in today's wildly complex environments. Before we dive in, I want to acknowledge the profound transformation we've seen in data protection over the past few years. We've moved from a world where backup was a relatively straightforward process to one where we're dealing with unprecedented complexity, scale, and threat sophistication everywhere. So today, we'll explore not just the challenges this creates, but more importantly, how we can address them effectively. Let's start with a fundamental question that many organizations are grappling with. Is your cloud storage holding you back? When we talk to IT leaders, we consistently hear about three major pain points with legacy cloud storage providers. First, the complexity issue. Many solutions become incredibly difficult to set up and manage. Sometimes you even need an actual training course just to understand how to use the dashboard. They also have confusing tier structures and pricing models that require spreadsheets just to understand what you're being billed for. Second, we're seeing mounting costs. These aren't just storage costs. Organizations are dealing with high storage fees, yes, but also expensive egress charges that sometimes vastly outweigh your storage charge. Transaction costs and other hidden fees are also a problem that sometimes only become apparent after implementation. Add minimum retention policies to that mix as well, and your budget starts to quickly spiral out of control. We even recently worked with a company that was paying more in egress fees than they were for the storage, and that's just a broken model in our opinion. Finally, there's the vendor lock-in problem, and this is perhaps the most insidious. Many providers have created ecosystems that limit the flexibility and ultimately put your data at risk by making it difficult or expensive to move out when needed. We've seen organizations get stuck with providers that they wanted to leave, but they couldn't simply because moving would cost them too much money. So it's not just about technology choice anymore, it's about freeing your business and freeing your data. Let's look at the scale of what we're dealing with. So the data explosion is accelerating at an unprecedented rate. From 64 zettabytes in 2020, now we're projected to hit over 150 in 2024, and probably double going into 2025. So this growth is driven by several key factors. The rapid adoption of AI and IoT technologies, the increasing amount of digitalization across all industries, and also the rise of real-time and edge computing, and that we're dealing with more and more unstructured data across the world. This exponential growth means organizations need to fundamentally rethink their approach to how they protect their data. On top of all of that, the complexity gets even worse when we start talking about ransomware, because it's more concerning than ever. Look at these statistics. 96% of backup repositories are targeted in a ransomware attack. That's nearly all of them. Of those targeted, 76 were negatively impacted in some way. Most alarming is that 27% of organizations paid ransoms and they still didn't get their data back. This highlights a critical point that traditional backup approaches aren't enough anymore. Putting things on a hard drive and taking it home aren't quite the same. Your backups themselves need protection, particularly through technologies like immutability that prevent tampering and encryption. Another compounding factor is infrastructure complexity. Businesses aren't just dealing with on-premise systems or cloud systems. They're managing a complex mix of both. And this hybrid reality makes data protection exponentially more difficult because they're trying to secure and manage data across multiple environments with different tools and different policies and different security models. It's become so complicated that even industry giants are recognizing the growing complexity problem. This quote is from Warner Vogels, Amazon CTO, and it's particularly telling. He admitted that while S3 was launched as simple, he's no longer convinced it is simple anymore. And this is a remarkable omission from the very architect of S3. When the person who designed the system says it's become too complex, we need to start paying attention. It's like when the inventor of the car starts saying modern vehicles have become too complicated to drive. And look at this startling statistic from Lightspin. 46% of AWS S3 buckets could be misconfigured and should therefore be considered unsafe. So it's not just about convenience or ease of use anymore. It's the fundamental security risk created by the unnecessary complexity. When the very architect of S3 is questioning its simplicity, it's clear that we need to rethink our approach to cloud storage. And the question is, how do we store our data and how do we make our data more manageable? So how do we address these challenges? The answer isn't adding more complexity. It's about smart simplification. We need to acknowledge that traditional approaches to data protection are no longer sufficient, and that the solutions isn't just about having more backups or more security layers. It's about having the right architecture that can scale with your needs while remaining manageable. This is where a fundamentally different approach to cloud storage becomes essential. So let's take a step back. On the left, we see the traditional approach, what many organizations have started with, which is local backups, manual processes, basic retention policies, limited recovery options. I should also probably throw in there no immutability. And this worked fine in a simpler world where ransomware wasn't prevalent and natural disasters didn't seem to come every single year. But today's threats and business requirements demand much more. They require modern data protection that is comprehensive, multi-layered, defensive. And that means implementing multi-site redundancy for geographic distribution. It means automated workflows to reduce errors from the human and otherwise. It means immutable storage to protect against ransomware. And critically, it means being able to recover rapidly to meet tight RTOs. The gap between these two approaches represents both a challenge and an opportunity. Organizations need to bridge this gap to stay competitive and secure, but they need to do it without adding any unnecessary complexity. So that brings us to what we consider the gold standard for modern data protection now, which is the 3-2-1-1-0 strategy. Let's break it down. This means having 3 copies of your data because 1 copy is not enough anymore. Of those 3 copies of data, you should have it on 2 different types of media. So not all local, not all in the cloud, but a mix of both, giving you the best protection against any kind of failure. One of those copies should definitely be offsite. This is traditionally more of a cloud workflow, and it helps you protect from natural disasters or any local incidents that should happen. Also, one of your copies needs to be immutable, and I would even go to argue, make 2 of your copies immutable. We'll see a story a little bit later on where we use some hardware immutability as well on-prem. So when all other protections fail, an immutable copy is how you ensure your data is clean and you can recover from it. Speaking of recovery, the last part of the strategy is making sure you have 0 errors on recovery. Now, this is not 0 errors when recovery is needed. This is running regular tests of your recovery, making sure that on a monthly or even bi-monthly basis, you're saying, hey, does this work? Are there errors? Am I going to run into some issue if I need to recover this data? Without testing your backups, you don't really have a disaster recovery plan. So this framework combines all of what we need for traditional disaster recovery and modern threats like ransomware. So it's not just about having a backup. It's about having the right kinds of backups in the right places. Now, this is also where Backblaze comes in. We've positioned ourselves as the cloud storage innovator, delivering a modern alternative to traditional cloud providers. And we mean that quite literally. While others have focused on adding more features, more tiers, and more complexity, we've taken a different approach. We've been focused on making enterprise-grade cloud storage that's fundamentally simpler to use and more cost-effective without sacrificing the security or performance you're used to. And it's not just marketing talk. It's built into the DNA of our company. We believe that storing, protecting, and using your data should be astonishingly easy. Now, let me introduce you to Backblaze B2. This is our S3 compatible cloud object storage solution. What makes it different? Well, first, it's always hot. Unlike other providers who charge you a premium for instant access or always hot access, or they make you wait for retrieval times on cold storage and so forth, B2 cloud storage buckets are instantly accessible without retrieval fees or delays. That means when you need your data, whether it's for routine or testing, or you need it in an emergency, it's there immediately for you. Second, we've built our platform to be super performant at scale. And we've designed it for 11 nines of durability. And our upload speeds are actually up to 30% faster than AWS. So it's not just about storing your data now, it's about being able to protect it and recover from it and have better performance in the meantime. Third, we're secure by design. We offer object lock for immutable files, cloud replication for geographic redundancy, event notifications for monitoring and acting upon what goes in and out of buckets. And all of these aren't add-ons or premium features. They're core to how we approach data protection. Finally, and this is the most significant part, we offer unmatched total cost of ownership. We're priced roughly 1/5 the price of AWS 3. We also include 3 times the amount you have stored in egress. So therefore, if you store a terabyte, you get 3 terabytes of egress for no cost. We also have no minimum retention fees, no minimum file size requirements. When organizations are dealing with this kind of thing, it makes it hard to rapidly grow and plan for the costs. B2 is designed to bring this cost difference down and make it more predictable. Now, let's look at what Enterprise Strategy Group had to say. They're a leading analyst firm, and they found that when they conducted an independent analysis of B2 cloud storage, that organizations would spend up to 92% less time managing their data. That's a lot of time back in your day. And when it comes to the cost side of things, it's equally impressive. They found that organizations achieved about 4 times to 5 times lower total monthly storage bills compared to other providers. And if you look at the total cost of everything, we're about 3.7 times lower. So this analysis was based off of rigorous methodology. They did cost analysis, product usage patterns, in-depth customer interviews, all modeling real-world scenarios of organizations storing 100 terabytes of data. And we also now have B2 reserve capacity offerings. And this is going to make this data even more impressive. We recognize that many organizations today need to satisfy a number of different standards or compliance requirements or best practices. So whether you're implementing the standard, the golden rule 32110 or 4321 or WORM or any of the other acronyms, we're designed to support all those requirements. We also know that compliance isn't optional, it's essential to everybody. So we've invested heavily in securing key certifications and compliance capabilities. We maintain SOC 2 Type 2 certification. We can give BAAs for HIPAA. We're proud to have achieved state ramp progressing status and Texas ramp provisional certification. Also for educational institutions, we meet different kinds of requirements like being part of Internet 2. We're also PCI DSS compliant for payment data, ISO 27001 certified for information security management, and fully compliant with many of the world's privacy regulations. All of this represents our commitment to meeting the most stringent security and compliance requirements across industries. This is particularly crucial in many of the regulatory environments that we see our customers in. One of our other key strengths is our broad integration ecosystem. We've built Backblaze B2 to work seamlessly with the tools you're already using, primarily because it's S3 compatible, so you can just plug and play as much as you want. But we do offer some tailored integrations, such as Veeam, where we can do direct-to-object repository or scale-out backup object repository. We've partnered with all the major players in the space, from Commvault to Rubrik and so forth. And we even have some specialty service providers like Castine by Veeam for container backups. All of this means you can modernize your storage infrastructure without having to rip and replace and retrain everybody. You can just simply change a couple lines of code to point it to our S3 API, and you're good to go. So that was a lot about our problems. That was a lot about what B2 can offer you. Let's talk about some real world examples of organizations using Backblaze B2. Let's start with Centerbase. Centerbase is a SaaS platform. They serve law firms, and like many organizations, they faced a critical challenge. They couldn't meet their desired recovery time objectives if disaster struck in both their production and disaster recovery sites. They implemented a comprehensive solution combining Backblaze B2 with Veeam and object-first OOPI device. Remember I mentioned that earlier. OOPI gives you on-prem immutability. So this solution gave them end-to-end immutability from on-prem to cloud. And most importantly, it gave them a one-click recovery capabilities no matter what part of the chain failed. And what's particularly notable is that they gained 3 times the protection with a solution that actually simplified their backup process rather than making it more complex. For a legal services platform where data protection is absolutely crucial, this transformation wasn't just about technology stack, it was about the survival of their business. If you read the story on our website, you'll see a quote by their IT director, Zach Young. He simply put it, "Hope is not a plan. You can't recover from a ransomware attack or something that takes out both your production and replication sites unless you have Backblaze." He knows that if his sites are compromised, he can bring them back to recover his business and bring them back faster than any of our other competition. Another compelling example is Pittsburgh State University, located in Tornado Alley. They faced both natural disaster risk and cybersecurity threats. Their private cloud approach they previously had in place wasn't providing the data integrity and ransomware protection they needed. By implementing Backblaze B2 with Object Lock, they achieved something remarkable: 4 times the protection of 5 decades worth of critical university data. Their IT director, Tim Pearson, he brings a unique perspective to this challenge too, because he also serves as a volunteer fire chief, and he was on the ground during the devastating Joplin tornado in 2011. So he knows firsthand the importance of having truly secure and off-site data protection. As he goes to describe it, quote, "Backblaze B2, I had the capability we lacked. I bolted it into our system, so now I have offsite backup that is safe and well protected from regional disaster in Kansas, as well as ransomware protection with Object Lock." This is a perfect example of how modern data protection needs have to address both traditional disaster recovery scenarios and new cybersecurity threats. You can find these stories and much more on our website, but just to let you know further about who we are, we serve over 500,000 customers worldwide. We manage more than 4,000 petabytes of data across 275,000 spinning drives. You can even read about those drives we're using in our drive report that we publish on our blog. It's actually quite insightful. There's some very historic data going back to some of the drives we used at the very beginning. It's quite impressive. But overall, all these numbers, all they do is represent the trust that our customers have in us. Organizations across multiple different industries have chosen us because we deliver on our promises of being simple, reliable, and cost-effective cloud storage. Let's talk about pricing for a minute, because I know that's probably on your minds. We made a lot of TCO claims throughout this, and here we're going to back it up a little bit. We offer 2 flexible options to match your business needs. Our pay-as-you-go model starts at $6 per terabyte per month. This includes complete flexibility for OpEx orientation, precise billing to the byte hour. And remember that free egress I was mentioning? Yeah, it's included with that too. You get 3 times the amount that you have stored in bandwidth. And there's also no minimum storage duration requirements or anything like that. It's perfect for organizations that want maximum flexibility and need to align costs directly with usage. For larger developments or larger customers, we have B2 Reserve capacity bundles. This includes all of your storage, API calls. You still get that 3x free egress. You get subsidized universal data migration. You get premium support. And there's volume and term discounts on this as well for larger commitments. This option is ideal for the organizations that can predict their storage needs and want to optimize costs through longer term commitments. Both options deliver enterprise-grade features at a fraction of what you're probably paying right now, especially if you're on AWS S3. And remember, all of this storage is always hot. It's always instantly accessible. There are no retrieval delays. There's no retrieval fees. It's there when you need it. And that brings us kind of to the end of our journey today. I could probably go on to talk for another hour about how we can help protect you, but I hope I've shown you a little bit about what B2 can do to help simplify your protection strategy. And we also believe that even as data protection becomes more critical and more systems need to have data protected, it doesn't have to become more complex. You can learn more about us at backblaze.com/B2 or email sales@backblaze.com to get a personalized demo of everything we talked about today. Again, thank you so much for your time, and I hope to hear from you soon.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Another poll up here for everyone out there in the audience. So again, if you're excited about what you saw here with Backblaze, this poll is just asking what additional information would you like about the Backblaze solution? And by now you probably know the drill. So if you're looking for data sheets, white papers, case studies, pricing, demos, etc., just click there. This is your easy button, your wish list, and they're going to be able to follow up and get that over to you lickety split. And with that, I know we've got quite a few questions here. So David, why don't we dive into it? What do you say about that? All right. So let's dive in. First question here from Matthews asking, what's the most impactful way Backblaze simplifies and enhances the backup process?
Yeah, so the best way that I could explain it is that it's the combination of being always hot storage, so no tiers, there's nothing to manage, there's no moving data around, it's just there and ready to go. And it's the mix in with straightforward pricing and our integration with all these tools. We're S3 compatible. We don't have any kind of say in what tools you want to use. As long as they're S3 compatible, you can jump right in and begin using our B2 cloud storage buckets to handle all of your backups in the cloud.
All right. I like that. Quick and easy. Okay, next question here is from Joseph. Joseph is asking, does anyone actually look at how often data at rest is used and provide metrics to customers so they can properly allocate their backup costs and strategies?
Yeah, so this one's an interesting one, and it's one that is in conjunction with whatever backup platform or tools that you're using. So we do provide you various ways to look into your data and get visibility to everything that's going on and how much you're using. But especially with tools from like Veeam and Rubrik and so forth, they have some pretty good lifecycle policies. That way they're always being transparent about what's being stored, what's falling out, and so forth. So this one's a little bit more about a joint effort, more so than it is just on the Backblaze side.
Okay, I could like that. Next question I've got here is asking about media types. So Michael's asking, what media types would you recommend to store your backups, and should they all be rewritable if there is no requirement to keep archives?
Yeah, so I'm going to take this one a couple different ways. Rewritability is important, but you need to have immutability too. So you need to have a fixed period of time where that data is you're not able to touch that data. You're not able to delete it. Not even the vendor can delete it. So for instance, if you enable object lock at Backblaze, we can't do anything with that. If you accidentally lock a file and you need it unlocked or deleted, we just have to write out that time period. There's nothing we can do there. Same goes for you. But when it comes to the different types of media, you definitely want to keep some stuff locally. That's part of our 32110 strategy. Veeam is big about that strategy too. You'll hear them talk about it a lot. Keep your data in-house, preferably keep your data in-house with immutability as well. Some of our partners like Object First, they are a hardware immutability appliance. So that'll give you immutability there. You can then push out to Backblaze B2, get immutability in the cloud, and have that virtual air gapping at the same time. So don't keep all of your eggs in one basket. Keep them spread out a little bit. So no matter what part of the chain might be impacted, your data is always readily available.
Perfect. And okay, well, you brought up the 32110 backup strategy. So for a company using Backblaze B2 as their cloud storage, how would they adapt the strategy and what considerations would they need to address?
Yeah, so this is more about evaluating what your current strategy is. If you have an on-prem solution and you're not pushing out to the cloud, then you're not really following true 32110 unless you're taking home hard drives, but then that adds into complexity and you might forget them at the office one day or so forth. So look at your current strategy and see how you can expand it in the cloud there. That way you can have that offsite copy. And the offsite copy is important for the virtual air gapping from natural disasters or just malicious attacks like ransomware. When it's not in your production environment, when it's not in the physical building that you're in, it's going to help ensure you can get that data back in the long run. And you can also look at different types of retention policies and so forth when incorporating this strategy. But we make it very, very simple that you can just take your current data that you have in whatever platform and you can push it out to B2 relatively easily.
Gotcha. And well, so actually I have a question here that was that came up very similar in our little number sequence. So Paul's asking, would Backblaze recommend the 432 of 4320 backup strategy in some instances?
I think it comes down to what you're trying to protect, what your RTOs and your RPO objectives are. 32110, I would say, in my opinion, is the kind of way to go. If you're trying to protect your backups and you want to make it simple and easy, that's what I would recommend to most people. But I'm starting to see a big shift where 4320 can give you a lot more benefits, gives you a lot more protection by far. So it just comes down to what kind of objectives you have set. And that is something that we can work with. We work with whatever your backup vendor is and whatever their policies are, and we can combine everything to make sure you have the protection that you need and you're not just left out in the cold.
Excellent. I've had a few questions I saw come in kind of discussing recovery speed. So can we talk a little bit about recovery speed and assuming companies using Backblaze B2 with a suitable backup partner, what kind of factors are influencing how quickly that users can restore their data after an incident?
Yeah, so this is a big one. We see a lot of cloud providers that will push you into cold or cooler tiers of storage. And those are great. They're cost effective because most people think I'm pushing a year's worth of backups online and I've never had an incident and I don't need it. But what happens with cool and cold storage tiers and some archival tiers is there's a delay. There is some fees that may be associated if you need to pull that stuff out early. And that ultimately limits how fast you can get that data out. So with Backblaze being fully hot storage, you can just say, I need this file, I need it right now, and hit the button, and it's immediately coming down. There's no fees to worry about. There's no other things to worry about. And you got your 3x free egress. That way you're not going to pay when you have to do regular testing and then you need to actually recover something.
Yeah. I like that. We are getting a little close to time here, so I'm going to pitch you one final question. This one here is about ransomware. So we've discussed that quite a bit, but I actually want to dig a little deeper and ask you kind of like, what are some lesser known vulnerabilities that Backblaze and its partner ecosystem can help protect against?
Yeah, ransomware is a big one. I think it's, what is on top of everybody's minds. But one thing that we're seeing quite frequently pop up now is just malicious insiders, accidental deletions. Somebody changes something they weren't supposed to. A life cycle policy gets changed and deletes all of your data. There's so much that can happen that's human error or human intent even. And that's where having object lock with immutability and the rest of kind of the feature set with cloud replication and so forth really come to help you. Because like I mentioned before, have everything kind of spread out. So if any part of that chain fails, you can recover that data and be up and running faster than you would otherwise. That's
great. Awesome. Well, I think we're going to have to call it there. If any of your questions out there in the audience didn't get answered, as per usual, don't fret. We'll have these covered in some way, shape, or form by the Backblaze team after today's event or on live chat here today. And before I do let you go, any final kind of calling card, final words, thing you want to leave the audience with today, David?
I just want to say thank you so much for listening in. If anybody has any further questions, please send them our way. We're on social media at Backblaze, just about everywhere. You can email us and just let us know how we can help you.
That's great. I'm sure you'll get lots of response. And again, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. And appreciate you letting me pick your brain here with the audience.
Thank you so much.
A pleasure. Take care. Alrighty, everyone out there, again, you know the drill. By this point in the day, thanks again for filling in the poll. Again, I'm going to pull that down in a second. So if you're still looking for a little bit of follow-up information, make sure you get your answers in on that poll right away. Also, quick reminder about the handouts tab. If you haven't journeyed over there yet, there's a URL link there for Backblaze, and it is the backup and archive solutions page for them. And you're going to learn where you can protect and how you can protect your data from disaster with S3 compatible storage at 1 per second. I don't know what can't read my notes. 1/5 the cost of AWS S3 and 3 times free egress. So definitely check that out. Definitely worth checking out. And again, you know, thinking about your strategy with your data storage, like what do we need to store? Hot, long-term, short-term, how can we get the best value? And definitely there is value here on the table that you want to check out. All right, and with that, let's see who's lucky out there. We have got the fourth $300 gift card going out here to Amazon, as well as another iPhone 16 Pro. So again, you don't need to be live and present here on the MegaCast to win. And other than that, let's do this thing. So gift card is going out to Eulogio Apolin from Hawaii, and the iPhone 16 Pro off to Sean Borelli from Connecticut. Eulogio and Sean, huge congrats to you both. And we'll be reaching out after today's webinar, of course, to let you know how you can claim those prizes. And with that, I am super excited to bring on our final presenter of the day from our friends here at Cohesity. Excited to have in the house Teresa Miller, who's Senior Director of Product Marketing for Technical Advocacy Group over at Cohesity. And as just now, we're going to be doing some Q&A with Teresa after this. So again, keep those coming in. I know you guys have been super inquisitive, super involved, and I love seeing the energy here in the audience today on the MegaCast. So thank you to everyone for that so far. And let's keep that up for our fifth and final team presenting here. And with that, Teresa, are you ready to rock?
I am. Thank you so much for having me join your audience today.
Oh, an absolute pleasure. I'm excited to have you. And so, yeah, feel free to take it away. And then I'm going to join you for Q&A when you've wrapped up all the good.
Sounds fantastic. So just a little bit of an extension of my introduction. So I've been with Cohesity for 6 years. Prior to that, industry tech veteran for over 25 on the customer side, 25 years. I am also a retired 7-time Microsoft MVP, 8-time Citrix CTP, and 8-time vExpert. So what we're going to talk about today aligns very much with the overall theme of the event today, of course, and that is data protection in the modern era of cloud. Now, one of the things I'd like to ask as we start unpacking this topic is for you to really think about the data that your enterprise has. The reality is that it really is the lifeline of your business. And if something happens to that data, the whole business or part of that business could be gone. One of the things that I want to call out as well is that data risk comes in a multitude of forms. Ransomware, of course, common and oftentimes undetectable for a long period of time. Denial of service attacks, malicious insiders, and even those honest, unexpected mistakes that our users may experience that cause mishaps with our data. Without that data, our business just cannot function and recovery becomes imperative. So I'm going to break this presentation into about 4 different parts today. Of course, we'll spend the next less than 20 minutes or so together with some time for Q&A. We're going to break it into just talking a little bit more about ransomware and why that continues to be a threat that evolves and impacts our enterprises. I'm going to talk a little bit about traditional data protection solutions and do an analysis of what that can look like with a modern data protection solution. And my example today revolves around AWS specifically, but from a cloud perspective, do know that we very much work with the Microsoft Azure side as well as GCP. From there, we're going to talk a little bit about Cohesity Cloud Services, and then we'll have time for that Q&A. So why is ransomware so challenging? Why is it impacting our environments so prolifically? Let's take a look at the left side here where I've outlined fixes for vulnerabilities being delayed. So the first example I want to spend some time on is just that patches are out of date. And from my experiences in the enterprise, being on the customer side, a lot of the time this was intentional because patches get released that actually can have issues with them. So we may want to do down-level environment testing over a period of time before we get it out to our production environment. And so that is also tied to lifecycle management on those patches. So there's a whole process that gets wrapped around that can cause those to be delayed, even inadvertently. We're trying to protect our environment from the mishap, but it may let bad actors take advantage of vulnerabilities while we work through that. And then the other point on this particular column I want to talk about is that ransomware is ever evolving. Attackers are getting more destructive. They're doing what they can to slow down recovery attempts. And of course, they want the payout. Malicious attacks, wipers, they're just more prolific and complex than ever. The next area I want to focus on is employee behavior creating security risks. And oftentimes this is not to anyone's fault. We don't know what we don't know as users. And so if there's not the right level of perhaps security training within the org or social engineering practice within the org to educate users, we may be setting them up, unfortunately, to being vulnerable. I know personally I spent a lot of time deploying systems to try to prevent these attacks from coming in, but nothing is foolproof. The landscape changes by the minute, sometimes it feels. And then in terms of ransomware challenges and this third column, testing security strategy boundaries, sometimes we're overly permissive with our credentials. I know I worked at enterprises where you'd have file shares that were open to everyone, and of course, as awareness grew, we'd lock those down. But if that was a challenge in the past, I'm certain it's still a potential challenge today, and that to me revolves around no clear governance modeling. So you have to make sure that you have structure in place that governs that data, putting in multi-factor authentication, have intrusion detection systems in place, the proper firewalling, just to keep those bad actors away. Now, as you likely know, it's not always enough. Even if you're doing all of these things perfectly, which I know would be extremely challenging to do, it's just not enough. The attackers are in there and they want that payout, so they'll find a way in. All right, so now I'm going to transition over to just talking about traditional backup environments and how they can typically be deployed. So on the very left-hand side of the screen, you can see that corporate data center. Now, in the simplest form here, this is on-prem, but we all know we have data everywhere, on-prem, edge, cloud. And so that's not to be considered neglected here. It's very much important, just keeping this as simple as possible. You'll then have your backup servers that probably have SSD storage and other storage media for long-term retention. These can be arrays set up at an offsite with a third party where that's replicating automatically. You could potentially still be leveraging tape. That still is a common choice, offsite with tape. Most of you are also likely looking to have 2 to 3 different versions of that data in different locations. And so there tends to be a lot of complexity within that traditional environment. The other consideration here is data growth. The complexity of this can increase your vulnerability. It can be extremely expensive, and I already mentioned the complexity, but just reiterating, complicated. So as I mentioned, I was just going to use AWS as my point of reference from a cloud perspective. But we do work and have offerings amongst the main cloud providers. So in terms of what we're looking at here, if you were to leverage our solution to modernize and leverage AWS and Cohesity, for example, on the left side, you'll have your corporate data center. You may be leveraging AWS Outposts. You'll have your application servers, but I want to call out Data Protect. So the shield with Data Protect is Cohesity, and we can protect those workloads on-prem. Now, you may have a variety of different connection points. In the middle, you see AWS Direct Connect there, VPN gateways, internet. And on the right side, we have AWS Cloud. So there's a couple different ways that you can do this. You could actually deploy Cohesity Data Protect into AWS Cloud to protect those cloud workloads. Or you could leverage our as a service offering, which I'll get into in a little bit when I get to the Cohesity Cloud Services section. But we offer that flexibility of choice so that you can extend your existing backup and recovery deployment to the cloud. So in terms of enterprise backup for AWS workloads, we do protect Amazon EC2, RDS, and S3. You can do that on-prem. You can do that by deploying Cohesity into AWS or our as-a-service offering. You can also replicate your workloads into S3. So again, gives you that flexibility to do have multiple copies of your data across a variety of different choices, or you can simplify and go with just one of these. Now, one of the huge benefits, regardless of what you choose, one or all, you get a single UI for management. We also use global deduplication, and so that will also help save with cost and complexity. So now let's talk a little bit about the Cohesity Cloud Services. So if I go ahead and choose next, again, I'm highlighting the data plane on AWS, but if you are an Azure customer, we do have a data plane on Azure as well. But the main benefits here of our cloud services is allowing you to shift away from having that capital budget and hardware to manage to OpEx budget. So we basically will manage all the backend infrastructure. This is an as a service. It lives in the cloud. And so it helps you just get the latest and greatest. We're doing all the backend updates. There's really nothing for you to do except protect your workloads. So it's nice to have that as an option, especially when you're looking to protect and have the ability to recover quickly. The other thing that I'd like to highlight in terms of our as a service offering is you can protect on-prem and cloud workloads. So you're not just limited to the cloud. You can see that I've listed out here many of the key workloads. It's not just this list, there are more, but many of you are likely leveraging vSphere or Hyper-V. You have NAS workloads. M365 is an especially common platform for us to be protecting, or an application for us to be protecting. You'll notice SQL Server, so Azure SQL, and the series of AWS workloads that I had previously mentioned. So again, let's get you out of that infrastructure management business. We'll do the patching behind the scenes as well. It's all based on capacity pricing, deduplicated and compressed. And onboarding is actually relatively straightforward and simple as well. I'm going to now transition to talking about some of our other capabilities that really go back to my mentions of ransomware and the ability to not only protect from ransomware, and as we work through this, you'll see the recovery side as well. So the way that we've architected this, all of your data is encrypted in flight. And again, compressed, deduplicated. In terms of ransomware, when you're leveraging our cloud offering, it's separated from your actual backup environment and your infrastructure. So if you have that on-prem environment, if you leverage as a service, it gives you a copy that's totally separate. One of the common use cases that we get on the Microsoft 365 side, from an application perspective, some enterprises are looking to protect on a different data plane. Again, it's that isolation. So they would want that AWS data plane in some cases instead of Azure. Now, of course, we have the flip use case, but it is just an example of how you can isolate that and see the benefit. We also offer data lock, which helps make that data immutable. So keeping malicious actors from tampering with that data if you use data lock. So think of that as worm. Beyond that, we have cyber vaulting capabilities. So what does cyber vaulting mean? Well, it's leveraging our AI/ML anomaly detection. And again, this is, it's available in our on-prem offering, but also from the cyber vaulting perspective, if that data is sitting in the cloud, we can do that anomaly detection there. Again, it's immutable, it's locked. We require multi-factor authentication, which if you take a look at the industry, I don't have a statistic handy, but a lot of enterprises that have credentialing breaches are because they weren't using multi-factor authentication. So we're enforcing that. And then we have indexing as well as offering granular recovery. So the granular recovery, of course, is if some small element were impacted, you have the ability to go at that granularly, or you could go at it from a full system perspective if needed. Now I'd like to talk about cyber vaulting leveraging Cohesity Fort Knox specifically. So walking through this architecture diagram, on the left, you likely will have some form of primary location, data center at the edge, cloud, wherever you may keep that, on-prem, edge, cloud. That's probably managed by you. And when you're leveraging Cohesity Fort Knox, the security benefits align with this diagram as follows. So you have the virtual air gap in the middle. So there's a rolling blackout window that essentially is creating a dynamic connection with some interruption to ensure it's harder to get in and breach. Of course, that connection is also encrypted. And then what's happening on the Fort Knox Vault side, this is Cohesity managed. We're keeping a vaulted copy of that data. There's data lock in place on that, so it cannot be tampered with. And there's also quorum capabilities. And what that means is that you cannot, for example, do a restore without multiple approvers. You cannot change a data protection policy or data protection backup job without multiple approvers. And you have flexibility of choice on that, by the way, in terms of what you lock down and require multiple approvers on. And so it gets pretty granular. And then when it comes to doing a restore, you can recover from that vault to an alternate location, which can be back on-prem, at the edge, or in the cloud. So it's a very powerful way to secure that data in what I would say yet another location. I don't think that you use any of these options as standalone. I think the more copies and protection mechanisms you have in place, the better off you will be should there be a significant data breach. Within our solution, we also offer advanced threat protection and data intelligence. So I want to break this down. If you look at the pillars above the Cohesity Data Cloud, we talked about cyber vaulting already. So I'm not going to break that down further. We did just talk about that. Now, our threat protection pieces. So we have within our product, we have anomaly detection, which can be sent to your SIM SOAR tools. We work with several Data Security Alliance partners where you can allow a SOC, Security Operations Center, to go ahead and do that research. Now, of course, your backup team could do that, but we're finding more and more that your Security Operations Center and your infrastructure and backup operations teams are working together in these scenarios. So you can break that apart however you like. We use RBAC throughout our whole platform. So you can give whoever needs access to those capabilities that needs them and not to those who don't. Beyond the anomaly detection, we also have Cohesity Data Hawk. And within Data Hawk, there's additional layers of threat scanning that can be done to confirm the threat and risk and possible next steps. I'm now going to transition to the data discovery and classification. So we have within our solution the ability to understand if things aren't quite as secured as they should be from a PII perspective. We can go out and look for PII on systems, and you can do that both proactively or reactively. We support both. And so it's important to have that. When you think about ransomware today, oftentimes you get the double hit, and one of them is data exfiltration. And so having the insights into what kind of data may have been exfiltrated, or if you can proactively lock things down, is critical to long-term success. And then our ecosystem integrations, I did slightly mention this already. Our Data Security Alliance we offer many partnerships and integrations so that you can leverage some of the existing tooling you have today, but leverage our alerting to get that information there for your security team to be able to do the proper investigation. Archiving. Archiving, it's an age-old technology, but still very relevant when you're looking to have different copies of your data throughout. So on the left, if you take a look at this architecture diagram, regardless of the type of data, your physical servers, VMs, NAS, apps, databases, etc., leverage our policy-driven backup and instant recovery capabilities on-prem, and then take copies of that data. You can archive it to the cloud. You can do long-term retention to the cloud, another Cohesity on-prem. You could do that even to tape, as well as replication. And then before we transition to Q&A, what I would like to just highlight is one of our customers. So this is Nationwide Insurance. They deployed our solution and found over $2 million in annual savings from the deployment. They were able to migrate to our solution faster, leveraging Cohesity platform. We actually do have migration tooling right within our product. They found that the single pane of glass that I was talking about earlier, the single UI, regardless of how you choose to protect your data, has tied back to simpler IT operations and that unified platform for even their file and object storage, and just a much faster data recovery, now days instead of months for large scale outages. And so just to highlight their quote here, they needed a next gen data management platform, and we stood apart because it was just simple to use. They tested our rapid recovery, found that it was much better than the competition, and our strong cyber protections, as we went through today, were standouts that have made them successful as an enterprise. So I'm going to go ahead, and that's the end of what I had to share with you today. So I think we may have a little bit of time for some questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Wait, I like this because it's just short and to the point. So Nick is asking, is zero trust pretty much the standard now?
Industry-wide, I think I'm going to start there. I think it should be. I don't think that all products do have zero trust, but ours, for us, yes. I mean, we have led with that from a product management perspective. We will continue to do so. We very much align with the NIST framework as well. I know I didn't talk about that today. But those are foundations that I think are so critical to choosing a solution, and those exist and are just baked into our everyday development.
Awesome. That's great. Sorry, my frog in my throat there. I'm going to quickly throw up a poll. We've got two here. So while we chat and I get to pose you some questions, this first poll here is saying, would you like to meet with your Cohesity sales representative to know more about the Cohesity solutions? And you can just basically select which solutions are interesting to you. So Data Protect, Fort Knox, DataHawk, Cohesity, Gaia. And I'm going to leave that up while I pitch you some more questions here.
Okay.
So, okay, next question here. And you did already touch on this, so maybe it's just a little bit more, but Adam's asking about if you can explain Cohesity's approach to deduplication and its impact on the storage efficiency.
Yeah, I mean, without an actual diagram in front of me, I think it's going to be a little bit hard to unpack, but let me just try and take it high level. And of course, we are happy to talk offline with you. But in terms of the deduplication and compression, let me just start with the foundational on-prem. So the very first time we do a backup of your data, we store that entire copy. And then from there, you are essentially doing incrementals, I think, is the simplest way to describe it, but it's a little bit different than an incremental in the sense that we hydrate it back into that original copy. So when you're doing a restore, for example, you don't have to do full and then figure out which incremental to pull. You just go back to the latest copy and everything has already been pushed into the latest and greatest backup copy of it. So it's a hydration process, leveraging our file system. We use a similar approach for the cloud workloads as well, behind the scenes. But in any case, I think that's about as deep as I can get without a visual. So hopefully that helps. Again, if not, happy to arrange some time to talk deeper offline.
That's great. No, I think that's plenty for today. And like you said, I think you could really dive into that and spend a whole lot of time. So that's a great way to
Yes.
to cover it for now.
Mm-hmm.
So next question in the queue, this one is, does your cloud offering protect both my on-prem and cloud workloads, or do I need two different solutions?
So we can protect all of your workloads. They could be on-prem, at the edge, and in the cloud. So any of your workloads, a single solution and single pane of glass. So it really does help from a management perspective. We have our Helios platform that is what brings that all together. Behind the scenes, it's relatively straightforward. You onboard Helios, and then everything else just gets onboarded pretty simply from there. So centralized index, centralized search, no matter where that data is.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. And speaking of where that data is, I've got a question in the queue about which geographic regions does Cohesity support and where are the backups stored?
Yeah, so in terms of, let me start with what's stored. We store the metadata. So that's the simple answer on the what. The where would be within our CCS solution. So the Cohesity Cloud Services solution is where that would get stored. Now, in terms of regions, so let me unpack the where a little bit more. So if you chose Azure, for example, as your data plane, we are in Central US, Canada, Paris, Australia, and we keep expanding and growing on those regions. And then from an AWS perspective, because we started with AWS data plane, pretty much any region globally that you could deploy a workload, we likely support it.
Okay, nice. Excellent. Okay, I think we have time for maybe a couple more questions. So let's try to pick the best. This one here is, do I have to be an existing AWS customer to leverage Data Protect delivered as a service? I'm guessing no, but I'm going to pitch that to you.
Yeah, well, that was a really great guess. So absolutely not, because it's within the Cohesity Cloud Services. You can leverage. You do not have to be an existing AWS customer. We manage that for you, and so yeah, you could be a Microsoft shop and then choose the AWS data plane for some of the reasons that I described within our MegaCast today, and or you could go with Azure. So lots of flexibility there, and you do not need to be a customer with them to leverage it.
Okay, excellent. I'm just going to switch over to our second poll here. So thanks for everyone for answering that about following up on those specific Cohesity solutions, which are awesome. And I love all the names, by the way. And then I've got another poll here. Yeah, no, I mean, like Helios, Gaia, what was the other one? Data Hawk. I was like, these
Data
are cool.
Hawk. Fort Knox.
So, Fort Knox is also pretty epic. So well done. Well done, whoever thought of all those. Okay, question here. Okay, I'm curious about Cohesity backups. I'm curious how Cohesity backs up RDS databases and the immutable storage you use to guarantee the data can't be deleted prematurely or modified. If you can shed some light on that.
Yeah, so Cohesity can back up RDS databases. And in terms of the immutability and guaranteeing that the data can't be deleted prematurely or modified, we leverage a feature called Data Lock, which you may be more familiar with as the term worm. And like you noticed, we have names for, for things. So we call it data lock. And ultimately that ensures that the backups cannot be tampered with or modified.
Okay, excellent. Beautiful. Well, I think that's about all the time we have for today, but I always like to give the opportunity for some final words. So that could be a call to action if you want to leave something with the audience for them to follow up, or something they should know, or simply just kind of a mic drop moment of some golden nugget of information.
Yeah, so I think my advice here would be you as an organization doesn't know what could impact your data. We think and try to be as proactive as we can, but stuff still happens. I've experienced many unexpected issues, even that were unrelated to security events. Like I worked at an enterprise, we had a 100 disk SAN outage that took out our test dev environment, or we had a DR event while we were all in the building, and we were expecting that would probably happen when we were at home and no one could get out to initiate DR. Like there's so many scenarios. Or we had a script start overwriting servers because security wasn't hardened. So do your best to prepare for the unexpected. And I think at the end of the day, your backups can become your insurance policy, as long as you have them locked down and immutable and leverage quorum. I think those capabilities are going to ensure that no matter what happens, likely unexpected, that you can get your business back online. So that's my parting wisdom. And of course, go out and check out cohesity.com. And, we'd love to be talking with you to see how we can work together.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Teresa. I really appreciate your time and your knowledge, and just want to give you one big final thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
An absolute pleasure. We'll see you next time. Alrighty, everyone. So that almost wraps things up. Again, if your questions for Teresa and Cohesity did not get answered, do not fret. They'll be following up with you on any of your questions. And again, the second poll there, if you're looking for any additional information about the Cohesity solution, is still up, but I'll be closing that out in just a few seconds. So final call on that. Again, another final call for the handout section. If you haven't grabbed all of those PDFs and links, you definitely do want to do that. And the one from Cohesity is especially cool. This is a digital guide about protecting, recovering, and getting more from your data. So this guide will cover how you can select an AI-powered data security and management platform. And this is part of Cohesity's Innovation Learning Series. So for those of you kind of on the AI train or hoping to get on the AI train, that's a great way to kind of ladder today's conversation about disaster recovery and backup in the cloud, and take a look at, what's coming, what's next, what's happening around the corner, and how you can use AI in order to help simplify, enable quicker, better ways of protecting and hosting your data. And with that, I know some of you are probably super excited. Your breath has been held. Your fingers and toes are crossed. We do have two final giveaways here. So one final $300 Amazon gift card, as well as one more iPhone 16 Pro. And then I'm going to read out all of today's winners. So if you stepped away, if you missed it, if you were misty-eyed thinking about how wonderful everything you're hearing today is, I get you. And so let's give away these final prizes. Again, you do need to be live and present here on the MegaCast to win. And with that, let's do it. So gift card number 5 for $300 going to Amazon is for Greg Armstrong from Georgia. And the third and final iPhone 16 Pro going out to Mark Jenkins from Utah. Huge congrats to you both. And again, I'm going to give a quick roll call or quick run of the winners here as well. So the 5 gift cards went out to Ned Kelly from Virginia, Martin Burja from New Jersey, Michael Kearns from New Mexico, Eulogio Apelin from Hawaii, and Greg Armstrong from Georgia. And then the 3 iPhone 16 Pros went out to Hane Wahdan from Virginia, to Sean Borelli from Connecticut, And finally, Mark Jenkins from Utah. Once again, huge congrats to all of our winners. We're going to be reaching out after today about how you can get those prizes claimed. And again, you may also hear from us if you asked a question and you were picked as the best question. So 5 $50 Amazon gift cards going out for each session, as in one per session. And we'll also be reaching out after today's webinar about that. Alrighty, if you are on the webinar today and you would like to chat with us about presenting on a future MegaCast, EcoCast, or one of our summits, well, we would absolutely love to hear from you. And you can reach out via email at connect@actualtechmedia.com if you want to chat and find out a little bit more. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to give a big thank you to all of our speakers from TierPoint, Zerto, Rubrik, Veeam, Backblaze, and Cohesity. What a great crew today for making this possible. And I want to give a special thank you to all of you out there for attending the MegaCast, for having some great questions up your sleeves and really bringing up the engagement around this conversation. Obviously, disaster recovery and backup in the cloud is not always the topic we want to think about. We don't want to think about having to recover from a ransomware attack or another data disaster. It's just unpleasant. But of course, if you have the right tools and right strategies in place, one of your worst days can be a day that is not so bad, perhaps just a blip on the radar. So I hope you have all gotten some interesting ideas and tips. You're feeling a little more informed and equipped to tackle some of these challenges and implement solutions and have some opportunities at your organization. And most of all, I hope you had a little bit of fun today. So that is about everything. But before you do take off, if you want to check out another similarly themed event in the near future, well, tomorrow, December 5th, it is a Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern, we have our EcoCast, which is covering hybrid public and private clouds. Which cloud is right for your infrastructure? So you want to take this cloud chat a little bit further? Well, that would be a great way to do it. You can still sign up and we can see you tomorrow as well. And with that, I want to give you guys all a big final thank you. I hope you have an absolutely magical rest of your days, and we'll see you again on another webinar soon. Take care, everybody.